Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Logical, Plausible, Probable. I'm your host, John Maddox, and tonight we're having another stream you just won't want to miss. If you got what it takes, click that link, but prepare yourself, for this arena is not for the weak. Now, let the mental combat begin, but always make sure your arguments are LPP.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another, what is guaranteed to be interesting conversation and analysis of yet another atheist who claims to have defeated the code argument, proven that it's just flawed beyond all doubt, and secondarily proven that I just don't know what I'm talking about. I believe one of the terms used was a debate buddy or something like debate bro, something like that. And it just shows beyond all doubt that, again, I don't know what I'm talking about. They know what they're talking about. And, my conclusions are just completely debunked, even though yet another one seems unable to grasp what the whole point of the argument was and be able to follow the flow. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. Before we get going, want to say thanks very much to all the folks who supported the little fundraiser campaign we did last week for the homeless lady here in Nashville. I actually got to speak with her again today. She's doing very well at the halfway house that she's in. And on Monday, I'm actually going to go pick her up, and we're going to get her an ID and do a few other things. Probably going to go to the grocery store, buy some food and such, and may also take her to a couple of job interviews. As kind of the tentative plan right now. So I want to say thanks so much to everybody that she was doing very well and was really being able to kind of get a grasp on her life again and was feeling like there may be hope and all that. So I want to say thanks very, very much to everybody who supported that campaign. And again, something I'm thinking about doing. I may see how she's doing on Monday, and I may do a little impromptu live streams. Folks can meet her as well and get a little insight into what all is going on and how we're being able to help her take things to the next level. I had an interesting conversation on, let's see, was it yesterday? Thursday afternoon. I had an interesting conversation with the prosecutor who is taking on her common law husband's case. And it was an interesting conversation. And basically, they have a slam dunk case. He's not getting out. Minimum for the charges is 8 years, and he's going to be facing no less than 100 individual charges. So each which carries a minimum of 8 years. I assume this can run concurrent, but it's long story short, he's not getting out for a while. So definitely hoping to kind of convince her. I started that conversation today to really start to understand, like, hey, he's not getting out of jail. You really got to start to focus on, yes, you can communicate with him, but you can't let him, control you or try to influence what's going on, because he's not getting out of jail, and we got to get your life in order. So that's what's going on there. So like I said, I'll give everybody a further heads up on how all that goes, and we'll see. We can take things to the next level. All right. So here is what we're going to be discussing tonight. Actually, before I do that, what's up, Matthew Hall? How you doing? Across the pond in the good old UK, as those of you know, my childhood home. I am a American citizen who was born in Suffolk, England. I lived there from 0 to 18. So the UK, I have a special bond with my childhood home, the United Kingdom. Good old 6 hours difference. So we will see how that is. And Testament, she actually does believe in God. Actually, interesting. One of the things that she talked to me about today was that, and by the way, this lady has early onset Alzheimer's, so there's lots of issues with her mind. But she said she actually had some of her memories came back as to why she'd originally come to Tennessee in the first place, and that she'd been kind of given direction again. It was espousing that, to giving credit to God for that. And she actually asked me to see if I could get her a Bible, because she basically, when her husband got arrested and all that kind of stuff, basically everything that they owned was confiscated. So she has nothing, or they confiscated or like thrown in the trash by the hotel they were staying at. So it's, anyway. What was I saying? Okay. Oh, yeah. So before I get into all this stuff, shout outs, man. What's up? Redefined Living's in the house. Kingdom Ready. What's Cheryl? How are you? And Mitchell's here. What's going on, Mitchell? How you doing? I think I saw Andrew coming here earlier. And we got Carmine is in the house. Honesty Angel, what's going on? Ray is here. And Jungle Jargon. Honesty Angel. I said that right. I missed somebody else was here. Oh, SpongeBob Imagination's in the house. What's up? How you doing? Utopia Buster's here. How you doing, man? It's all right. So this should be a good one. Oh, what's up, Info Disco? How you doing? Okay, so here's what we're going to be doing here. So there was yet another atheist who claims that I just don't know what I'm talking about. And what's up, Hurricane Havoc? And his son's a fan. What's up, Caleb? How you doing? Glad you're watching and being able to hopefully learn some stuff. Hopefully we'll be able to realize what is logical, plausible, and probable, and not some of the more whacked out positions that are taken by some of these folks that I address here in the brilliance of YouTube. I misspell atheist. What am I doing here? Oh, another atheist. Yep, I did. That's what I get for titling this while I was driving. Let me change that real quick. Appreciate you pointing out that little autocorrect issue there. All right, let's refresh and see if that fixed it. All right, there we go. Okay. All right, so here we go. So what's kind of funny about this is, for those of you who saw the Beamsy beatdown that was delivered last week, if you go to that video, you'll see in comments that the person that's doing in this video was like bashing me, explaining how I didn't understand those stuff, so on and so forth. And it's really fascinating as we watch this. You'll realize that just like Beamsy, there's some very interesting corollaries between what Evo atheists on YouTube seem incapable of understanding. Even the ones who are computer programmers don't seem to understand things. And it's actually led me to a video I'm going to insert into this review, because I think the person who did this other video that I'm going to utilize to showcase how ridiculous these people are kind of makes jokes about programmers in the modern era not understanding the basics of what's actually going on underneath the hood. So let's get into this little dumpster fire. By the way, folks, when we get on all this, depending on how things are going, how much time it takes, I may open it up. We might have a open mic discussion as well. Okay, here we go.
I'm the sinister porpoise. When you think of sinister porpoises, think of the sinister porpoise. You're probably wondering why I'm coming to you with something other than a computer programming tutorial. There's a good reason for that. Those videos have been about as successful as my submarine screen door dealership. Not to mention that I've been too busy trying to learn things like calculus and questioning if I should have gone back to college at my age in the first place. If you follow me for a while, you may be expecting me to deliver a snarky verbal lashing to some sort of conspiracy theorist or a certain California closet-dwelling shipwreck. I'm going to take a different track this time. We're going to address logical, probable, plausible, if you couldn't guess by the opening animation provided to us by Gonna Go For It, and I will link to his original animation down below, and his misunderstandings of computer science. Let us be clear. Logical, probable, plausible is a thoroughly unpleasant individual, and if he comes to my channel, his comments are probably going to get deleted because he can't follow my rules.
You know, I really don't understand why people have such a hard time being able to get things correct. It's logical, plausible, probable. It is not that difficult. Logical, plausible, probable. It's not that complicated, folks. You're literally reading. You should be able to get this correct and not like flip-flop or use completely like possible. It's a logical, plausible, probable. This is very, very straightforward. It's not that difficult. You even have it titled correctly, but you can't say it correctly. I mean, I don't understand why people have such a hard time with this. This is not that difficult, but let's continue. Oh, by the way, as you've heard, they've already made the assertion that I don't understand computer science and that they're going to showcase this. And this is the individual who's gone back to college, I guess, and is learning things, and apparently is, has so much knowledge that they don't understand the basics of communication and code theory, but that's okay.
But he thinks he has some sort of great original argument that is really not just a repackaging of some other argument. What argument is he going to repackage? Watch the video and find out.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Logical, Plausible, Probable. In this video, I will be outlining a formal argument on the subject of code, which I dare YouTube atheists to counter with anything other than, it's just a metaphor, it's not really code, which does nothing but showcase the ignorant state of denial required to be an uninformed atheist. But before we get into it, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you like the videos, debates, and after shows, make sure to hit that little bell icon so you will actually get notified. Now buckle up, because it's time to make an argument that is logical, plausible, and probable.
And we see that logical, probable, plausible doesn't like people pointing out the major flaws in his argument, because if we point out the major flaws in his argument, he can't get them off the ground in the first place. We also see another problem with his argument. He thinks that DNA is a computer code. He's actually probably equivocating here, which I'm sure no one in my audience spotted well before I did, because it's not like my audience is smarter than I am about logical fallacies or anything. But we're going to keep it clear that he means computer code based on other conversations I have had with him. You can see some of those in his
Okay, just to clarify one more time for like the 1000th time. Machine code. Okay, all of the arguments I make specifically in relation to the genetic code. are related to machine, well, actually code, the root of code theory and the fundamentals. And then I say it directly applies, obviously, to machine code. But the principles that I discuss in relation to why the genetic code is a code is that it follows the fundamentally recognized principles of coding. And what is code? And not, ladies and gentlemen, higher level, we're not discussing higher level language, which, as you will see, yet again, we're going to have another atheist who does not seem to be able to differentiate between underlying code theory and principles and a higher level language a la JavaScript, PHP, Python, etc., 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 as you will hear very shortly. And it just, it's amazing. Also, ladies and gentlemen, notice that the title of this, Logical, Plausible, Probable, proves God is a programmer by repackaging the Kalam cosmological argument. Okay. So, I don't think that's true. And given the fact that this is a lot more about teleology, I mean, there is some ontology aspects to it as well, of course, but in no way, shape, form, or fashion is this a repackaging of the Kalam. But if you pay close attention to what you're about to hear, you'll understand why this individual is obviously like missing the point missed the boat on a lot of things. So let's go continue.
Interactions with me, where you can also see that he's arrogant and thoroughly unpleasant. LPP, the main reason your argument doesn't get off the ground is because you've misunderstood the purpose of an analogy. An analogy helps us understand something by making a comparison. The reason DNA is not a computer code is because computer code has no direct effect on the physical world, unlike chemical reactions.
Okay, so that, folks, okay, so here momentarily, of course, I'm going to have to once again reiterate and showcase how it is recognized that it's not an analogy, that it is a code, fulfills all the fundamentals of a code, and you can't just dismiss and say, oh, it's only an analogy, it's only a metaphor, etc., etc., etc. You can't just dismiss like that because he doesn't know what the heck he means and what the heck I'm talking about. Okay, so that's first off. Then well, let's just listen to what he said again, just because it's so good, folks. I don't even know how these people. I mean, he's reading this. He wrote this down and doesn't. It's not off the cuff. This is written down, folks.
Because you've misunderstood the purpose of an analogy. An analogy helps us understand something by making a comparison. The reason DNA is not a computer code is because computer code has no direct effect on the physical world, unlike chemical reactions.
Okay. Oh my. Okay. The reason it's not a computer code is because computer code has no direct impact on the physical world. Okay. So the code that is being executed and turning off things in your computer, that's impacting the physical world. You can have code that controls robots, which build things in the physical world, that activate things in the physical world, that control all sorts of aspects of the physical world. And you're going to sit here and tell me that computer code does not, that computer code does not impact the physical world. I'm just, oh my goodness gracious, folks. I don't know how to do this. It just blows me away every time. Okay. Now, the fact that we can and currently have created computer code that is stored in DNA, which directly interacts with computer systems via those chemical reactions, and the fact that we're building molecular computers that operate via chemicals. I mean, it's not a computer code because it's chemicals. Well, tell that to all of the people who are currently building DNA-based computers. I mean, I don't even know what to say of this stuff anymore, folks. Like, I mean, it's just, I don't even know, folks. And this guy is saying that I'm the one who doesn't understand computer science. It is beyond ridiculous what these people are talking about. Oh, does he think that computer code is only like it can only be electrical impulses or on-off switches? Like, I think that's the only thing that can contain computer code. I don't know how many times I've gone over this. The medium does not determine what. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm actually going to pull some stuff over in a minute. We're going to listen to a few more things, and I'm going to pull up some stuff. We're just going to review the utter stupidity of this. It's just, it's.
So for any of you who have seen one of my debates on intelligent design and evidence for God, you have heard me get into great detail on the subject of the genetic code and how, as someone who has a background in tech, it just blows me away that, given what's now known about genetics and biological systems, the idea that this all formed through undirected process with no intelligent agency being required is borderline nuts. But in this video, instead of actually explaining what is happening in literally every form of life and is recognized by basically every secular institution on this planet as fact, that is, the genetic code is a literal code. Since all atheist and agnostic YouTubers want to talk about are hypotheticals, I'm curious to see if they can actually reach a...
There you have it, folks. Anyone who points out that he has misunderstood the purpose of an analogy is wrong. Unsurprisingly, logical, plausible, probable is a debate me bro whose experience far exceeds his actual knowledge. Unlike people like Kent Tovand, he has some knowledge of programming. But I suspect, as we shall see, he has vastly overestimated his competence.
Oh, debate me, bro. That was the term. That's why I've been branded, folks. I'm a debate me, bro. And by the way, for those who are paying attention, I think this is the second hat of the of the review or the debunking of yours truly. And at this point, again, it's not an analogy. And in line with that, let's just quickly address the fact that it's not an analogy. And it's recognized as not being an analogy. And oh my goodness, what's going on here? I can't do it, folks. I can't. Okay. So once again, information, transcription, translation, code, redundancy, synonymous, messenger, editing, and proofreading are all appropriate terms in biology. They take their meaning from information theory, Claude Shannon, 1948, and are not synonyms, metaphors, or analogies. By the way, I'm quoting somebody who is not in favor of intelligent design. He is not a creationist. He's an atheist who actually was part of the formal positions against the need of an intelligent agent. But in the context of the genetic code is stating that it's not analogy or metaphor. Okay, that all of the points are, one of which is code is neither synonym, metaphor, or analogy. Okay, like they're directly from information theory, so you can take those definitions, which is what I've done over and over and over again, and apply them to the genetic code. And if you're just going to sit here and claim that that is not true, and I don't understand analogy, or my argument is debunked because it's just analogy, take it up with the people who wrote the freaking books, literally wrote the books on the subject. Go take it up with them, not me. Don't claim that I'm wrong. Go tell them. I mean, it's just, I can't get over it, folks. This goes on and on and on every single time. But let's continue.
To understand LPP's videos, we're going to have to understand a few things first. What are those things? I'm glad you asked, because this is a new philosophical argument that no one has ever heard before. I'm pretty sure of it. And I know a lot of...
By the way, folks, pay close attention. I'm pretty sure that there is a wand in this individual's right hand, and they're also wearing gloves. So I'm not sure if this is like germophobia or if they're like casting a spell on me. I'm not really sure what's going on, but make sure you don't miss the wand waving as we're as you listen to the credibility of the debunking that is taking place right now.
A lot of people on my channel are on the cutting edge of my philosophy. Even though after a year of mocking Steve McRae, I can tell you that academic philosophy is the most goddamn boring topic on the planet to me. I suggest if you want philosophy delivered in an engaging and entertaining manner, you watch ContraPoints or Philosophy Tube. You'll get to see two things on those channels that I don't possess. Those things are talent, money, and a large wardrobe budget. Some of you are probably thinking that I committed an off by one error there, but I assure you that my counting is correct. I started counting at the number all computer programmers start counting at, which is 0. What is this new original argument that dates all the way back to the Golden Age of Islam? It's so new that none of you have heard of it, I'm sure. I'm sorry, I'm just so excited. Its name is the Kalam Cosmological argument. Wow, isn't it great? It has something to do with a watchmaker. Don't understand it, really. If I may be more serious.
And I hope you guys didn't just miss the cat tail that waved in front of the webcam, because that just happened as well.
Than I have been for a moment, I actually do not have a problem with the Kalam cosmological argument. And while I know people would love for me to rehash it right now, I'm going to gloss over it. Basically, the Kalam cosmological argument is valid. Its premises follow from its conclusions. But the main problem with it is there is no way of determining whether it's sound. Unfortunately, if you disagree with LPP and his lack of knowledge about computer science, or any tech topic, you become an atheist, especially if you question the fact that he doesn't really understand why, if his analogy falls apart, it's not a valid argument. However, we're going to ignore that for now, and...
So if his analogy falls apart, then it's not a valid argument. Well, as you're about to see here very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, this guy, again, doesn't... Well, I'll just let him speak for himself. It's yeah.
Go on to discuss a bit about Boolean logic, because he has presented his argument as a bunch of AND statements. Now, in Boolean logic, if any one of those statements in an AND condition is false, the entire premise is false. So what we're going to do is go through those premises and see if any of them are false. Perhaps he may even convince me that he's right on this, although honestly, it doesn't matter to me whether he is. By the way, those of you who have followed me for a while may know that I actually have commented on a certain California shipwreck's strange inability to do Boolean algebra, even though he claims to have studied computer science, electronics, and philosophy. That is completely irrelevant right now, but it is a good callback, isn't it?
Sound conclusion other than mine if they actually take it seriously. More specifically, reach a sound conclusion without fantastic assertions and clear evidence of both Atheist Fantasyland projection complex and the DROID-C, also known as the desperate rejection of intelligent design condition. Now, to be honest, I should probably spend 10 minutes issuing caveats to prevent the ridiculous amount of predictable talking point responses that don't actually address the argument, but that's entirely pointless. I swear, half of YouTube atheists who leave comments don't actually watch the videos they comment on. Either that or they're too stupid to comprehend the points that are being made in the videos they comment on. However, I'm going to repeat the foundational caveat this entire video and the entire argument is founded upon. The genetic codes are literal codes, not metaphor, not analogy, not simile, not any other looks like a code but isn't actually in a code escape mechanism. This is a hypothetical. You don't get to run away from the foundation of the argument.
Okay, so again, folks, as you heard me say there in that video, that I should take the time to do issue all the caveats, but even if you do, they won't listen because they just regurgitate the same things over and over again. Even if they claim to have superior knowledge about computer science, et cetera, they all spew the exact same moronic talking point, which is chemicals. It's either chemicals or it's just an analogy, or it's the same things over and over and over again, folks. And it doesn't matter how many times I obliterate them and showcase how they don't know what they're talking about and how the experts agree with me, not necessarily in the origin and the necessities of the origin, but in whether or not the principles that must be accounted for and the concepts that must be accounted for are correct. Like, this is the same thing over and over and over again. And it's about to get even worse, folks. Let's just, what's really funny is you're about to see them agree with me on on the foundational principles or premises. And then, yeah, anyway, let's go.
Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into part one of the code argument. Premise one, all codes require arbitrary values being assigned to representative impulses, signs, or symbols. Premise.
I will grant LPP premise one for the sake of argument. The issue is that he is assuming that someone assigned a meaning to DNA, and there's just no evidence of that. Any meaning that can be extracted from DNA is better explained by DNA being the incidental product of chemical reactions. For all human-generated codes, this premise is true. Now, I don't remember all my informatics classes, so I may be a little off, but I believe this is correct.
Okay, so what's really funny about that is at least this person agrees that in all other known codes, that position is correct, right? If you guys were paying attention with Beamsy, that individual was claiming that that's not correct. So, I mean, premise one is true in this context, but false in the other one. But both of them claim to know, I don't know anything about computer science and programming, and they do because that's what they do. And I don't know what I'm talking about. Although, here we go. Oh, it's just chemical reactions. There is no meaning. Well, folks, I'm going to have to read again and again and again from papers that show this whole point. Again, I'm not suggesting that all DNA has meaning. We're talking about the genetic code. I don't know how many times. I don't think I even used the word genetic code, or sorry, the word DNA in the entire video. I specifically use genetic code over and over and over again. So that it's like, I'm not calling all deoxyribonucleic acid code. I'm talking about the specifics of the genetic code itself, which is triplets of base pairs equal to amino acids. That's what we're talking about. I've done this over and over again, and they keep regurgitating the same thing. It's like you're talking about the medium, not the code. And to put that in context real quick, let's go back here, because I think this kind of points out the okay. So let's kind of just put things up, folks. So can the medium be part of the syntax? And obviously the answer is yes. If you look at the letters over there, okay, representing different mediums, right? So you have the letter T in a wooden block like you played with when you were 2. And then you've got the metal one. And then you got the chalk one. And then I don't know whatever that one's supposed to be made of, okay? But just because the shape syntax can also be translated to some other medium, that doesn't mean it's not part of an alphabet and therefore not part of the code, okay? The syntax in the medium, or the medium can be part of the syntax, okay? Now, let's look at this other picture, okay? And I wrote this in this there, but let's just read it out loud. So, would anyone with half a brain argue that because the box and the letters are made out of wood, that is the same medium, that somehow the letters are not specific to an alphabet and specific arrangements of them are not words because they share the same medium as the box, okay? So let's assume you take these wooden letters that are in this wooden box and you put them to spell out words or spell out a sentence, right? And then somebody comes along and says, that isn't anything because all of them are made out of wood. You would look at that individual and be like, you have a serious problem, or is English your second language, or are you illiterate? Like you don't know how to read? Like you don't understand this? I mean, I don't. It's amazing. So the point I'm making here, folks, is that the individuals who claim that make these assertions about DNA is equivalent in this context to the wood, okay? And wood can be used to make the box and the letters, and the wooden letters can be put in the wooden box, but the wooden box is not the code, okay? It is not the rules that govern the code, all right? It's the arrangement of the letters. And then the semantic values that have been associated to the strings of said letters, of said alphabet, which have been code maps to be equal to certain things. Like this is the basics, folks. Over and over again, I've regurgitated this, and over again, atheists on YouTube don't get this. However, if you are one of the people who said yes to that question, then as that lovely little picture says, somewhere a village is missing its idiot. And I think we will see that in greater and greater detail as this video goes along. And, well, yes. And one final thing. Can a medium have multiple functions? And the answer to that is yes. It can be the storage medium and or the channel and or the syntactic portion of the message and or part of the hardware. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for atheists on YouTube to wake up to reality. These concepts are not limited to wavelengths. Information communication theory are also applied to systems which have a physical medium. We do this every day. And yet somehow atheists continue to tell me that I don't understand this stuff when they keep misrepresenting higher level languages with root machine code and the fundamental principles of code. It's bad. But let's get back to the dumpster fire.
His argument holds up, so maybe, just maybe, he might convince me yet.
Symbols. Premise 2. Code values and syntax must be determined before messages can be encoded, transmitted, and decoded. Premise 3. All codes require a translate mechanism, adapter, key, or process of some kind to exist prior to.
Premise 2 and Premise 3 are true for all human-generated codes, for the most part. Every human language and computer programming language operates by a predetermined set of rules that everyone using the language follows, or follows as close as they can in case of human languages, because there's no compiler enforcing the rules upon us. Hey, he hasn't screwed up on this one either.
Well, what's really funny about this is, oh, wow, the logic about codes is correct. And they agree. But last week, Beamsy said that those premises were 100% false. I didn't know what I was talking about, and that didn't apply. But this week, this atheist says that they do. And I was correct on that one. Wow, okay, interesting.
So let's see what he has to say with Premise 4.
Translation. Premise 4. Translation of encoded values does not transform one symbol into another. The representative symbols are interpreted to be equal. Premise 5. The genetic code contains all of these factors.
Premise 4 is true for all human-generated codes again, so he may have me. Can he get it right on Premise 5? Oh, wait, no he can't. He was getting so close, too. If we correct LPP's equivocation fallacy, so to make it clear he's talking about computer code again, it falls apart. JavaScript, for example, has two equality operators. They are the double equals and the triple equals. For example, if we have statements if A double equals B and if A triple equals B, they behave in similar ways and may have an identical meaning to a casual observer reading the code, but a programmer will know better. Because the first one makes sure the values are equal. The second one makes sure the values are identical. The first one only checks for equality, while the second one it checks for equality and data type. For example, if the value of A is 4 and the value of B is 4.0, the first statement will evaluate to true because both values are indeed equal, barring any floating point shenanigans that are going on in the processor. However, the second one, if A triple equals B, will not execute the statements after the if because the truth value of that statement for the values given to A and B in our previous example were false. Now, most scripting languages that don't have strict typing have these equality operators.
Okay, so this is rather long-winded, and I'm going to rewind this and play it again, but let's just think about what's being said here, folks. The point I made is false because languages like JavaScript do X, Y, and Z, and they don't think that the genetic code does so. Therefore, it's not a code. But listen carefully to what you're about to hear, okay? And they're about to make a distinction that there's other types of code that also don't do that. And now, again, we're talking about computer programming, higher level languages, folks. Higher level language. Machine code is lower level language. Higher level language is what they're referring to with JavaScript, okay? That gets translated into machine code. Now, what is cracking me, and by the way, you can, with all different types of code, you can have different types of commands that have been code mapped into extensions of the of the alphabet and into strings. Okay, so you guys have heard me go over this over and over and over again. But listen carefully, folks. We're gonna rewind and we're gonna play it again. And I just want you guys to listen to the distinction. Recognize, number one, that they're claiming that because there's different commands that are in specific types of codes, right? And the video I'm going to play in a moment here to get into how our computers process things and how we have to have account for different languages and translate them into the appropriate operating system language that's for that particular type of computer. Like this is, folks, they're claiming that I'm making equivocation fallacies when they're literally making an equivocation fallacy. Yeah, let's rewind and just pay attention, folks, because I'm being accused of making an equivocation fallacy of my freaking analogy, which isn't an analogy, while they are doing exactly what they are accusing me of. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you evidence beyond all doubt of a significant case of the atheist Fantasyland projection complex that is in a very, very advanced status. Okay, let's play this one more time and let you guys hear for yourselves. Okay.
If A triple equals B,
Whoops, I didn't go back far enough.
will not execute the statements after the if because the if A triple equals, wait, no, he can't. He was getting so close.
Okay.
So let's see what he has to say with premise 4.
Translation. Premise 4. Translation of encoded values does not transform one symbol into another. The representative symbols are interpreted to be equal. Premise 5. The genetic code contains all of these factors.
Premise 4 is true for all human-generated codes again, so he may have me. Can he get it right on premise 5? Oh, wait, no, he can't. He was getting so close, too. If we correct LQP's equivocation fallacy, so to make it clear he's talking about computer code again, it falls apart. JavaScript, for example, has two equality operators. They are the double equals and the triple equals. For example, if we have statements if A double equals B and if A triple equals B, they behave in similar ways and may have an identical meaning to a casual observer reading the code, but a programmer will know better. Because,
by the way, folks, just for fun, recognize the point that we just made. Like, the programmer will know otherwise. Okay. So what is the programmer in that context? The programmer will be operating as the translation mechanism that has foreknowledge and has understanding of what the source and the target of the codes, as well as the syntax, semantics, and pragmatics of said code. All right. They would know this. So I mean, it's the fact this is even being brought up is hysterical, and the point being missed of how the necessity of the programmer knowing what is actually meant in this context, and then obviously the computer being programmed by the engineer to be able to interpret what is meant. The fact that this is going over their head gets me. But let's just pay close attention to what you're continuing to hear and about the differentiation of different types. So why this is even being brought up is just hysterical. And the fact that I'm supposedly making an equivocation fallacy while they're doing it.
the first one, make sure the values are equal. The second one, make sure the values are identical. The first one only checks for equality, while the second one it checks for equality in data type. For example, if the value of A is 4 and the value of B is 4.0, the first statement will evaluate to true because both values are indeed equal, barring any floating point shenanigans that are going on in the processor. However, the second one, if A triple equals B, will not execute the statements after the if because the truth value of that statement for the values given to A and B in our previous example were false. Now, most scripting languages that don't have strict typing have these equality operators. I'm not a fan of this behavior. There are good reasons for JavaScript, Perl, Python, PHP, and many other scripting languages to include it, but it leads to some quirky and strange behavior, and it leads to bugs from a careless coder. Another way that this falls apart is that DNA isn't performing Boolean operations. It's not trying to determine if something is equal to something else. DNA does not by itself do data processing the way a computer can. Now, we can use DNA to do that, and that is what DNA computing is all about.
Okay, so there's actually papers on Boolean in relation to the genetic code, and they're actually creating. There's all these things they're using Boolean algebra and a variety of things in order to identify sequence functionality, and there's a bunch of stuff going on in that. So that's neither here nor there. But then in the context of there's no determination, like. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, the reason I'm about to play a video here in just a moment that's explaining how computers work is basically what this person is saying is that if the DNA isn't the CPU and isn't doing the actual information processing, therefore there isn't code. So let's think about that for just a second, ladies and gentlemen. That would be like saying, because your USB thumb drive is not doing the information processing, it's just storing the information that your computer is being able to access. that therefore there is no code on the thumb drive. Or because the CD or the DVD that is being utilized isn't what's actually, it's just storing the information, it's not processing the information. Therefore, there is no code on the CD or the DVD. I mean, or let's go even dumber, folks. Let's say the piece of paper that you have written a higher level language onto, right? You've written a function or script on paper. It's just ink and paper. That is like saying, ooh, that same premise applies. There is no encoded information on the paper because it's just ink and paper, and there is no processing of it. Oh, wait, the processing in that context would be being conducted by your brain. But I mean, I clearly don't know what the heck I'm talking about, because this is just, woo, ladies and gentlemen, it's so far off my head. I am clearly not understanding what is being said.
Why does this work? It's because DNA pairs in a nice, neat way that we can assign one value to 0 and another one to 1. Since we can now dismiss your entire argument.
Oh, and that's like saying because we assign 0 and 1 to on off based on voltage. I mean, like, well, that's not. I mean, because this is just chemicals. It's pairing, but that's not code. I mean, even though we do the exact same thing. I mean, we used to do it with holes, folks. We used to do it with holes in punch cards. I mean, do we now use transistor? I mean, yeah. They claim that I do not understand. They claim that I am the one who does not understand computer science, folks. While they are saying some of the most ridiculously out to lunch, clearly ignorant. Either you're ignorant or you are gambling that the average individual is ignorant, and therefore you can make this crap up and argue that I'm the one and claim that I'm the one who is suffering from Dunning-Kruger or doesn't know what the heck I'm talking about in relation to tech, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's nuts. Now, we're at here that this is where my entire argument falls apart, and this is where I'm going to have to start. I'm going to play a couple more seconds, and we're going to play this other video, which just breaks down how computers work and how information is processed and how code operates in a computer. And hopefully we'll be able to show that this individual is either lying out of both sides of their different hats or doesn't know what the heck they're talking about and thinks that I am the one who's ignorant. But it's getting staggering.
Argument is false, there's no need to continue. He presented these premises as an AND condition, and only one part of an AND condition must be false for the entire premise to be false, as I've stated 3 times already. But let's go on anyway.
Premise 6. All of these requirements depend on foreknowledge of the intended outcome. Premise 7. All known codes require intelligent agents to create these requirements. Premise 8. All life requires genetic code to exist. Therefore, intelligent agency is required for life to exist.
And we're going to cut the video off here, even though it goes on for 2 more minutes. LPP is a debate me bro who's probably going to challenge me.
Okay, so you noticed it didn't really reference the last 2 points there, and now it's shifting over to, oh, I'm just a debate me bro, and apparently I'm going to challenge. But let's listen to this little part. But they dismissed the conclusion for the most part, basic claiming that one premise is false, you have a Boolean and therefore everything is false. Actually, in philosophy, you can. It's not exactly the case, but anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Me to a debate to prove how big his virtual penis size is. I have seen LPP debate people like Randolph Richardson and Godless Engineer. In both cases, it's clear that he overestimated his knowledge. I'm sure I'm overestimating mine as well. I'm not interested in the verbal fights that people call debates. There are multiple reasons for this, including the one I just mentioned, and there's another good one, and that's because I'm on the autism spectrum. I often have a hard time telling when it's my turn to speak. This is only made worse in online conversations, especially when there's delays, and I may assume it's my turn to speak, but the packet just hasn't come into my headphones yet. With that said, LPP, I hope you continue your education and evolve away from being a Christian apologist. What computer science needs right now are people who are willing to solve the problems AI content selection algorithms and Google's SEO algorithms have created. This is far more important than trying to lead someone to your religion. As long as you are not suppressing the rights of others in the name of your religion, and it helps you be a better person than you would be without it, I have no problem with you being a Christian. But I personally...
Now, here's what's going to be very ironic here, folks, is if you pay close attention at the end, I'm about to be accused of being, I think, racist, transphobic, homophobic, etc. Okay, so listen closely to while... Oh, and I think they say right before all those accusations that they're, good person, all about being, good to folks and whatnot. It's pretty funny. And yeah, anyway, let's continue to listen here. Just pay close attention, folks.
Suspect that you're homophobic, transphobic, Islamophobic, and perhaps racist. I have no proof of any of these things. Now let's finally close this thing out like I said I would. Be excellent to each other.
Wait a minute. Let's listen to that one more time. Listen to the accusations you just made about me, and then follows up with I think that's from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, but like the be excellent to each other. But let's listen to those accusations one more time while, yeah, it's pretty interesting, all the things that they admit they don't have evidence for, but that I must be.
And it helps you be a better person than you would be without it. I have no problem with you being a Christian. But I personally suspect that you're homophobic, transphobic, Islamophobic, and perhaps racist. I have no proof of any of these things. Now let's finally close this thing out like I said.
I have no proof, but I suspect. So you're making very interesting assumptions and accusations with no evidence. But hey, ladies and gentlemen, let's be excellent to each other.
They would. Be excellent to each other, and so long, and thanks for all the fish.
Oh man, I love it. Okay, so now, ladies and gentlemen, let's real quick, we're going to flip over and prepare for a little bit of education, as I just want to showcase from a third party that obviously this individual just doesn't understand why my position is substantiated in computer technology, and that clearly they don't know what they're talking about, or are just hiding actual reality from the average individual and gambling that they don't know what they're talking about. So let's get this ready to go here, and pay close attention, people. Pay close attention. Oh, and one of the reasons I picked this video was, and I think Beamsy and Godless Engineer and Porpoise and a plethora of atheists I deal with are exactly who this individual is kind of making fun of as they're explaining this in relation to the modern era of how the average person just doesn't understand what's going on behind the scenes, even if they're programmers. And they think, oh, it just happens. And they don't really understand the steps that are having to take place, which is the whole point that I'm making, is that if you have a higher level language, you have to go through all these processes to get down to the machine code, which the genetic code is the machine code, ladies and gentlemen. It's not the higher level language. It is the machine code. Let's go.
In your first programming class, you were probably introduced to the idea of a compiler. Here's how it works. You first write out your program, but a computer can't read it yet. So in order to actually run your program, you first need to pass it through this special program called the compiler. Then out pops a new version of your program that can be read by a computer. It was probably then tested by running it with a bunch of inputs and expected outputs or something. So there are two versions of your program, the one you wrote but a computer can't read, and the magically generated one that a computer can read. Except it's better than magic. The compiler is a complex machine that bridges the gap between human readable code and computer readable code. So what exactly is the compiler doing? And what does the executable version of your program actually look like? What? You say you have no idea what I'm talking about? Oh, I think I know what might have happened. In your first programming class, you probably just used an IDE, in which case this whole process was hidden from you. When you click the run button, your work is saved, your program is built, and it runs automatically. So now that we're up to speed, what does the executable look like? And how does the compiler... What? You still don't know what I'm talking about? All you did was Python scripting? Oh my god, there are so many edge cases. Okay, this is what happens to programs in general. Deal with it. How does it work? I don't know. Let's find out. At a low level, computer processors can only do a small number of things. They can read and write to memory, and they can do math with numbers they're holding. Modern processors do other things too, but this is basically it. Now, an executable program, the one generated by the compiler, is just a list of instructions for the processor to follow, written in binary. The instructions are things like read these bytes from memory, do stuff to them, write bytes to memory, jump forward this many lines, jump...
Okay, real quick. So one of the points I make all the time about the mRNA sequence that is being run through the ribosome which is, in this context, the CPU. Okay. It is performing specific functions and specific instructions. All right. Do this line, this item, yada, yada, yada. Pay close attention to what you are hearing, ladies and gentlemen. And think about this in the context of the mRNA sequence, what's happening with the ribosome in protein synthesis. For something to be a code and to be executing commands, it doesn't have to be higher level language, because higher level languages get turned into this. Okay, pay close attention, listen, people, and for all you atheists out there, just for the love of all that is good and holy, rational, logical, and just coherent in critical thinking, okay, pay attention. Stop with your stupid higher level language dismissals.
Jump back this many lines, but only if this flag is set, stuff like that. A program expressed in a list of binary instructions is called machine code, and this is the kind of program that your computer can actually read. But why does a computer processor only read programs that look like this? Why this specifically? Well, in short, here's how a processor works. The processor already contains the circuitry to do all of these instructions, but the correct circuitry only gets connected together when the corresponding instruction gets fed into it. The ones and zeros in the instruction cause certain transistors to open or close, which ends up connecting the correct circuitry together to execute.
And by the way, folks, in the ribosome, you have a ridiculous amount of different little components that are connecting, that the chemical circuits are formed, anticodon, anticodon. There's a plethora of different proteins inside and RNAs that are operating in conjunction to read the information. Things don't happen if they're not in conjunction. They're not connecting. So as you're talking about the circuits being activated in the CPU, right, as your computer is processing different things and different components and connecting the circuits, it's the exact same premise that's happening in your cells. Okay, just make sure you think about it. Don't forget that.
Execute that instruction. If you want to look more into how this works, you might want to check out Crash Course Computer Science, particularly episodes 5 through 8. Episodes 3 and 4 are also helpful if you need a refresher on binary and logic gates, though you could just watch my video too. And for the record, Crash Course isn't paying me to recommend them. I just really like this series. But in short, just know that executable programs look like this. But when you first learned to program, you didn't need to know anything about these complicated machine code things like memory management, operations on bytes, or conditional jumps. Programming was about variables and if statements and loops and functions. Well, these things are just higher level constructs that make it easier for humans to think about programming. A program expressed in this form is called source code. It's the version of a program that a human understands, and thus the version that most humans actually write code in. The compiler's job is to take this source code that is human readable and turn it into machine code that is computer readable. But how does it do that? How does it turn a string of text into a list of instructions in binary? Let's look at some examples. Here's a pretty simple program. Declare a variable of type integer.
Have a great night, Honesty Angel. Good to see you. Hope you're having a good one, and I hope you got some entertainment out of this stream tonight.
That we'll call x, then assign it a value of 3. For now, this program only exists as source code. I know it looks like it has some kind of structure, but for the computer, it's just a meaningless sequence of characters. It's just text. And I know this program doesn't really do anything useful, but we're starting simple. Let's pass this source code into the compiler and see what it does. The compiler first divides the text up into individual tokens. It's kind of like the compiler is figuring out what the words are in this program. Then the tokens are organized into a hierarchical structure known as a parse tree, which is like figuring out what the grammar is in this program.
By the way, you have syntactic analysis, you have semantic. Pay close attention to the different things that are going through this parsing, the parse tree, as we're going through all this to ultimately turn it into machine code. It's basically, the reason I'm bringing this up, folks, is this is the stuff that I talk about all the time. It's exactly what's going on in the genetic code, and it's transcription, translation, elongation. Like all of this it's a direct equivalent.
The structure. Then, the compiler records context about the program, including variable and function names. This is the stuff that a computer needs to keep track of in different parts of the program. In our case, the only context we need is the variable x. Oh, and the main function too, but that's less important for us. The final step is to traverse the tree and figure out some machine code that would effectively do the same thing as this particular source code. I just want to clarify that, typically, compilers don't go directly from the parse tree to the machine code. There's usually a few intermediate steps that we're going to skip over. This is what the machine instructions look like in binary. It's a little hard to read and interpret, so let's shorten it by writing it in hexadecimal. Actually, it's still a pain to read. Let's write it out as assembly code, which is a more human-readable version of machine code. That's better. Now, we're going to ignore this.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I want to reiterate that these different things that you just watched the source code be translated into are different codes that have been code mapped to be equal to the other thing. Okay? So it doesn't matter. Each one of these is a step down, right? It's getting closer and closer to the ultimate lower level language machine code that's going to be executed, right? That the computer is ready to read. But each one of them is directly equivalent, right? You can turn one into the other. Okay, this is the exact same thing that I talk about with the source and target alphabets. Okay, and the code, the extensions of those, the string extensions. Okay, so you have the genetic code, which is 3 base pairs in a specific order, is equal to an amino acid. So the same thing with, you can turn amino acids back into. We're not talking about this. We're talking about from a chemical perspective, but from a coding perspective, you can say, "Oh, here is this string of amino acids. I can know exactly what the codons are for that. The codon is for each individual amino acid. Therefore, I can reverse translate a string of amino acids into a genetic sequence of codons, and vice versa." As well as many people I've shown people over and over again. Let me actually pull it up real quick. Let's see here. So I can find this real quick. Right here. Okay, so look at what I'm pulling up here, folks. So is what you just saw in the video of going from source code and down the line to I think I got an assembly right now, hexadecimal, and then assembly, right, before you're getting into machine code. The exact same equivalent here with the genetic code. So you got genetic code, binary representation, and amino acid that it's equal to, right? So the string of binary is equal to the amino acid, and the string of binary is equal to the genetic code sequence, and then the genetic code UUU is equal to this amino acid. Like, this is, I don't understand why people have such a hard time grasping this. Like, this is exactly what we're showcasing here in relation to computer machine code. Okay, let's continue.
Stuff here. Just know that it's responsible for starting and ending the main function, which determines where the program starts and ends. This is the instruction that corresponds to the assignment of the variable x. This instruction says to move the number 3 into this memory location. Let's run the program and see what happens. And as we'd expect, the number 3 got put into that memory location. It looks like the compiler decided that this part of memory is where the variable x lives. And that's it. The compiler took our source code, which said to take a variable x and assign it the value of 3, and translated it into a machine code, which says to place the value 3 in this part of memory. So our program is kind of boring right now. What happens if we change it?
And real quick, everybody, the moving of different things, the controls, etc. One of the reasons I always use like 3D printing scripts as an example of what an mRNA sequence is, right? It is at this position for this amount of time, put element whatever into this order. Like that, those are the commands that are being executed by the genetic code. That's like the root layer of the information. There's multiple additional layers, but that's like the root. Like, put this in this order. It is a digital instruction. This is known, recognized. The only people that deny this are YouTube atheists. It's really amazing.
Let's add a line to increment x by 1 after it's been assigned 3. We assigned it the value of x's current value plus 1. Now we pass it into the compiler again to generate a new version of our machine code. The compiler finds tokens, parses, contextualizes, and generates. It looks like there's only a single new instruction to add the value of 1 to this memory location. After all, this is the location that the compiler decided that x lives. Modifying the variable x is equivalent to modifying the value stored in this memory location. Let's run it. The value 3 appears in that memory location designated for the variable x, and then the value becomes 4. Now, so far, we've seen how variable assignments and simple mathematical operations get translated. But it's not so simple for if statements, loops, and functions.
I want to say a major thank you to Mitchell for your super sticker. Thanks so much. Appreciate that very much. And love the hat getting turned back there with that super sticker. Appreciate you.
There are no machine instructions that are direct equivalents. Instead, we need to emulate their behavior with instructions that do exist. Let's start with an if statement. In an if statement, we only execute the code in this block if this condition is true. If the condition is false, we skip over this code. In assembly, the code inside the block gets translated normally, but before it, we have some instructions for evaluating the condition, and then we have a conditional jump instruction. In this case, to jump past the block we want to skip, but only if we're supposed to skip it. The processor knows whether or not we're supposed to take this jump based on the result of the previous instruction. That instruction temporarily sets some flags in the processor so we could remember the result by the time we got to this condition.
By the way, folks, some of the things that are being talked about here also have direct equivalents in the genetic code. So you've got like the triplet of triplets. You have the reality that adjacent codons directly impact the one that's being read at that moment. You have, in relation to the formation of the code, like everything getting ready to be executed, you got like splicing factors to remove things. Like this chunk needs to be moved physically, move to this location to reorder the digital information. Like people who don't grasp this don't know what they're talking about, or claim that this isn't true, don't know what they're talking about. They haven't read papers on the topic, and I'm going to pull some of those up here in a minute, but let's keep going with this.
Additional jump to skip over this block. If we're not supposed to skip it, then the processor ignores the jump and continues normally, conveniently executing the code inside the block. Notice that these machine instructions are effectively doing the same thing as our if statement? Let's see how jumps can emulate other source code behavior. There's the if-else statement. Only execute this block if the condition is true. Otherwise, execute this block. In assembly, we have the code in the first block and the code in the second block. Before the first block, we have a comparison and conditional jump, like what we had earlier. In between the blocks, we have a regular non-conditional jump instruction. This is so that execution skips the second block if it just finished the first one, which is kind of how the if-else statement works if you think about it. Then there's the while loop. Only execute this block if this condition is true, and keep executing it over and over again until it's not true anymore. In assembly, we have the block's code, the instructions to evaluate the condition, and the jumps emulating the loop.
Oh, and just so everybody knows, there's very similar things to that too in the way gene expression operates. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Functions are a little more complicated. Basically, functions encapsulate a code block so that it can be used in multiple parts of a program. Most programmers out there should know that they also isolate context and they can do recursion and stuff. This is what its equivalent assembly code looks like. Let's run it to see what it does. Hitting the function call, we save all context into memory, allocate new space on top of it, execute the function code, which may involve calling more functions, and pop back down once it's done. This makes it possible for functions to call other functions or even themselves. You just push more memory and pop back down when you're done. So that's how compilers work. They take your source code and make machine code. But there's one problem. If you compile your program on one computer and then copy it over to another computer and try to run it, it might not work. If the new computer has a different operating system or has a different processor model, it probably uses different machine instructions.
So this is a very important point in relation to one of the standard YouTube atheist talking points of why would the designer use the same code? Like that just proves common ancestry. It's like, okay, so if you look and see pay attention to what you're listening to right now, you'll find out that having all these other ones makes things more complicated and requires a whole bunch of additional layers to make things way more complicated and way less efficient. And given the fact, we also hear ad nauseum that if there really was a designer, it'd be more simple. Well, I guess, ladies and gentlemen, we just need to eliminate any and all variables, codes. Like everything needs to be, there only needs to be one. And I mean, because that would actually be more efficient. Oh, wait, we do try to do that for very specific types of processes. We found that different type of codes can be created to specifically address different type needs, right? Because not every code has to do everything, and specific codes can be created for specific reasons. Like we do this all the time, but supposedly that completely obliterates the evidence in favor of the designer that we have a genetic code that does something very specific. And it's just
So if you want your program to be able to run on this new computer, you better be able to compile to that computer's machine code. And if your program's users might run your software on different platforms, unless you're distributing the source, you're going to need to keep a copy of an executable for every platform you want to run on. Every single one. Some languages like Java sneak around this issue. Instead of machine code, Java gets compiled to an intermediate representation known as bytecode. And then the bytecode can get sent to other computers, where it gets converted to that specific computer's machine code when the program is run via an interpreter. It's a bit of a compromise. You get better portability, though it's less efficient. But regardless, the language you write your code in is compatible with a wide variety of processors and operating systems.
By the way, there was an interaction I had with some atheists where they said that my whole argument about everything have to ultimately be compiled into machine code was debunked because there's interpreted languages. What they missed out on, folks, is the fact that that little point we was talking about in terms of the bytecode, that uses it's called a JIT, just-in-time compiler, where not the entire program, but little segments of it that are in bytecode are being translated into machine code, because eventually everything must be translated into machine code. Okay, that's just a fact.
Can you imagine what it was like back in the day when computer programming meant putting assembly or even machine code onto punch cards? Not only would you need to figure out the correct holes to punch for each instruction, you wouldn't even be able to use your program on a different computer model because the other model expected you to punch different holes. Things are a little nicer these days. You just write a program, compile it, and test it with inputs and outputs. If only.
Oh my goodness, folks, were you paying attention? We used to not do it in the exact same format that we do now. Oh my goodness. Does that mean that the way that it was done then, because it's not directly in the same manner of execution, i.e., there's no impact on the physical world? Oh wait, it was a freaking punch card. Nope, there was nothing. No physical interaction with the world. I mean, come on, man. It's like you guys don't even know what you're talking about. It's hilarious how this just gets completely obliterated every time.
All thanks to the people who wrote the special program, the compiler. But remember that the compiler is a program itself. If people use compilers to develop programs, how was the compiler developed? Well, it was probably written and compiled in another language, or even the same language, compiling a compiler with a previous version of itself. If we follow this chain backwards, at some point, we reach the origins of development tools, programs written directly in machine code that help you write other programs, literally automating part of the process of creating automation.
Oh man. Now, obviously the person who's doing this video is talking about the necessities for computer code, but it's really amazing how directly applicable that is to the whole point about, from an abiogenesis perspective, you have to have the author of the original compiler. And yeah, so and you have to, if let's say that in this context, let's just for analogy perspective, let's say that the ribosome is also operating as the compiler. Oh, actually, no, the polymerase and their transcription factors actually would be the compilers, or the compiler working in unison to be the compiler. You have to ask yourself, how does the compiler form itself, especially when it is written, as the guy was just talking about in terms of the compiler program, it is written either in a different language or in the same language. Oh, wait, it turns out that the compiler, all the transcription factors, transcription factors, all of those components are literally written in the same genetic code. Oh my Lord, ladies and gentlemen, look at this. The information needed to operate as the compiler, which can now create the machine code, which can be executed by the processor, i.e. the ribosome. Wow, it's amazing how directly comparable that is.
The history of computer languages is pretty complex. No wonder it took decades to get where we are now. Remember that the next time you're writing code. We have all these beautiful things like syntax highlighting, static analysis, object-oriented programming, functional programming, libraries, linkers, build tools, and debuggers. But it's still amazing that we can just tell our computers to follow our exact instructions at the push of a button. Nope. Wait. There we go. The push of a button.
All right, so I hope you guys liked that video. I think it kind of puts a lot of things into context. And then real quick, we're gonna run a little bit through this one. Let's here.
It's a common theme throughout the modern world that everything in a computer's brain comes down to ones and zeros. You've most likely heard that this code of ones and zeros is what's referred to as binary. And while almost everybody knows that this is somehow related to what computers do, very few of us seem to understand what binary is or why computers use it. If you want to know, then this video is for you, because it's actually a very simple concept and still quite fascinating. Before we get to computers, let's talk about what binary itself is, as it existed long before computers did. Binary is nothing more than a system of counting. To understand how it works, let's look at two other systems of counting, tally marks and the glorious base 10 positional that we all know and love today. Tally marks are the simplest counting system imaginable. However many things you have, you put down that many marks, easy as pie, but not very efficient. Meanwhile, base 10 positional, which is what we use today, uses a different symbol to represent different amounts of things. With the numbers 0 through 9, we can recognize that each symbol indicates a different amount of things. If we need to represent something higher than 9, we add a digit to the left, roll this first digit back to 0, and start over. This system is very efficient compared to tally marks because each digit we add exponentially increases the amount of things we can represent. Because in this system we add a new digit every 10 things, each digit represents an increasing power of 10. This is the number of ones we have, the number of tens, the number of hundreds, the number of thousands, and so on. Now this is probably something you already know, but it's very important to keep it in mind when we talk about binary. Now binary works the exact same way as base 10 positional, but instead of each digit going from 0 to 9, it goes from 0 to 1. Counting upwards in binary sounds like this: 0, 1, 10, 11, 100, 101, 110, 111, and 1000. Because each digit of binary has only 2 values and not 10, each additional digit represents an increasing power of 2 rather than an increasing power of 10. So this is the number of ones we have, the number of 2s, 4s, 8s, 16s, 32s, 64s, 128s, and so on. Not nearly as efficient as base 10, but exponentially more efficient than tally marks. Literally. So now that we know how binary works, let's talk about computers. Why did the first computer creators, as wise and intelligent as they are, waste their time with such an ineffective system of counting? Well, it's because of a physical limitation on how computers work. Everything a computer does comes down to what's known as microtransistors. Simple, tiny, eensy-beensy little switches that can either be on or off and can be flipped on or off with a very weak electrical charge. The first goal was to get computers to count. And to get them to count by using these switches, we could use the tally system, meaning the number of on switches equals the number of things we have, or we could use the much more efficient system of binary, where each switch represents a digit of binary.
Okay, so folks, look here. For all of the ongoing diatribes and debunking statements about chemical reactions and no impact in the physical world and so on and so forth. So yeah, those microtransistors are literally on-off switches. And then their state is utilized to be representative of 1 and 0. And then, as you're about to learn here in a few moments, how they're representative of something in combinations of those ones and zeros. Isn't it interesting how combinations of base pairs in the genetic code are equal to something that they are not actually, they aren't actually becoming, or interesting, just like on-off switches in computers. It's really amazing how this, I'm completely out to lunch and I don't know what I'm talking about. Wow. No comparison.
8 transistors using the tally system could represent a number as large as 8 by turning all of them on. With binary, we can represent a number as high as 255. An on switch means a 1, and an off switch means a 0. Now is a good time to mention that a single transistor is what's known as a bit, which stands for binary digit. A byte is 8 of these bits in a row, which means any number between 0 and 255.
And by the way, folks, you've heard me read things from like Yaki's paper about how the genetic byte is 6 bits, not 8. You have 3 base pairs, right? But there's 1 bit each in each letter, and there's 3 of them. So 2 times 3 is what? 6, right? So you have a 6-bit byte versus an 8-bit byte in what we utilize.
So if binary is just a system of counting, what do people mean when they explain how to spell things in binary? Well, what they really mean is how to spell things with ASCII. The American Standard Code for Information Interchange is a way to convert a computer's data, which can only be in numbers, and turn it into letters for humans to have an easier time to work with. ASCII simply assigns a character to each value represented by a byte of binary. And because a byte has 8 digits of binary to work with, and 8 digits of binary can represent up to 255 values, ASCII had 255 letters and symbols to choose from, more than enough for the entire alphabet, punctuation marks, and other symbols. For example, the corresponding ASCII number for an uppercase A is 65. Now,
Real quick, look at that. You have decimal, binary, octal, hex, and ASCII. Okay. Each one of those is a different alphabet, right? That is being utilized. Some of the symbols are the same, but they're different codes. But the codes are equal to each other, right? 65 and 1 or 01, 00, 0001, 101, or 41 are all equal to the letter capital A. Okay. And this is an ASCII. There's also something else called Unicode, which is a more advanced, which creates a little different variation on the way it's how it's structured in order to account for additional, not the 255 character limit that ASCII has, but go up to like 1,000. So I forget what the math is, but it's anyway. Let's continue.
65 in base 10 is equal to 1,000,001 in binary. So whenever you type in an uppercase A in a word program, a coding program, or a scripting program, or whatever, somewhere there's a little tiny row of 8 transistors arranged in the pattern of off, on, off, 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 on, which represents 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1 in binary, which is interpreted as 65 in base 10, which is converted by ASCII into an uppercase A. You're likely starting to get a feel for the staggering amount of transistors required to write something as simple as a Facebook status, let alone all the different coding that your computer has to do to make the screen light up, play games, calculate massive values, and so on. Well, long before we got to the point where your phone can play 3-dimensional games, it became clear that numbers as high as 255 just weren't going to cut it. Regardless of how many bytes we had, and it was a lot, even adding 4 fully active bytes together could only get a number as high as 1020. To solve this problem, new computers were designed to recognize 2 bytes as one single number. So now instead of referencing one line of 8 transistors, computers could reference 2 lines, giving 16 digits worth of binary. This was a huge help because it increased the amount of representable numbers exponentially from 255 up to 65,535. When you hear people talking about the difference between 8-bit and 16-bit, this is more or less it. Now, that doesn't mean that a 16-bit system is exponentially that much more powerful, because your program isn't always going to be utilizing all of these numbers in each byte that it represents. It just has the option to, which opens up lots of doors. Well, this could go on for ages and ages, but I want to end this particular video right here so as not to be overwhelming. In future videos, I will explain how computers use these numbers to decide which pixel is what color on your monitor, what the different components of your computer are for, and how hard drives store binary digits on a spinning disk rather than in transistors. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, liking and subscribing is always a huge help. While I've been enjoying making these instructional videos, I might move them to a different channel soon and continue doing comedic gaming-related things on this.
All right, I'm going to put links to those channels, and I'll put those in the description because there's a lot of other interesting things on those channels. And I thought they did phenomenal explanations of those processes and different functions and such. But I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, I just don't understand why, other than extreme cases of DROID-C and AFLPC, the continued assertions that I'm the one that's know what I'm talking about, and yeah, that somehow it's wrong. My analogy, it's just an analogy that collapses. Nobody actually thinks this stuff. I mean, again, ladies and gentlemen, we have another proof of beyond all doubt. Yet another atheist who is coming after me is actually the one who is either lying or doesn't know what they're talking about, or is just completely not comprehending the difference between machine code and higher level language and how they're actually equal to each other, but the genetic code is like a machine code. I mean, I don't know. It's but if people want to join, we can try to do a little short open discussion. Let me put link inside chat. So Germania is inside chat, and last night he did or maybe it was the night before, I forget now. He did a long stream coming after me and just reviewing so many of my videos and how I'm just, so bad. It was interesting. It was kind of fascinating. He has his positions and his opinions about me. Okay, that's fair enough. It was also kind of interesting how he also dramatically misinterpreted and misrepresented my positions, or just, like I said, didn't understand different things that are being said. And very similar to Beamsy and Porpoise, just kind of, a lot of the stuff just kind of went over his head. It's kind of interesting. But hey, got some good insults in there. And, even though Gurr is mostly, he's an okay individual, in conversation can be fine. I think he's really a closet anti-theist assassin, but I give him a little bit of a pass because he's not quite as much of a jerk as a lot of the atheists here on YouTube. So we'll see. All right. Well, I'll give it maybe 5 minutes if people join. I will pin that link in the side chat for folks who want to come on in. Let's see. Where to go? All right. Link is now pinned if you want to join for a short conversation. While I'm waiting for folks, I'm going to pull up a other paper here real quick, which again goes back to the atheist saying that it's not code. Nobody thinks it's code. I just prove it over and over again that it is. Okay, so as you can see, let me zoom in on this. And what always gets me about this, I don't know how it is remotely coherent for people to claim that it's not code when they do reviews of things like the review of application of code theory in genetic sequence analysis. Okay. How can you apply code theory to something that is not a code? That is fundamentally impossible. If something is not code, you cannot apply code theory to it. If you do apply code theory, you'll realize oh, this thing is not a code because I can't apply code theory to it. It's like, this is not that complicated. Yeah, but it's kind of interesting when they get into, let's see. There it is. Okay. So this is like the basics of a Shannon-Weaver communications system. And here we go. Look at all that stuff. The exact same things. Genetic message in DNA, transcription into RNA, channel hits the mRNA code, channel into translation into protein, right? Genetic message in protein. You have genetic noise, which is mutations. You have noise in the genetic code, which is in the tRNA, right? And the tRNA is the independent channel. And then they're getting into, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, transcription, translation, initiation, and translation, elongation plus termination. These are the steps. Okay. Then they get into how using block coding, a block code model. I think they also used where's the other? It was in this paper. These couple different code theories or code models. We can see from the DNA computation that the DNA could be coded as a code word to make itself makes itself a DNA compliant. How do you apply code theory to something that is not a code? It's just, I don't know, folks. Either I am seriously living in an alternate universe, or atheists on YouTube are really living in another planet. Wow, here we go. DNA information from digital code to analog structure. It's actually kind of interesting. So let's just read the first sentence. The DNA linear coding carried by the base pairs of the DNA double helix is now known to have an important component that acts by altering along its length the natural shape and stiffness of the molecule. In this way, one region of DNA is structurally distinguished from another, constituting an additional form of encoded information manifest in three-dimensional space. These shape and stiffness variations help in guiding and facilitating the DNA during its three-dimensional spatial interactions. Such interactions with itself allow communication between genes and enhanced wrapping and histone octamer binding within the nucleosome core particle. But then, and let's scroll down just a little bit here. There's another very interesting point that was made. Where was that? Understanding how this organization is established is a fundamental, outstanding biological question. We argue that the digital base sequence encodes information specifying not only protein sequences, but also the three-dimensional trajectory of the DNA chain itself. Although it is known that in the nucleosome, individual chromosomes occupy distinct non-overlapping domains, or chromosomal territories, the molecular details of large protein DNA complexes in eukaryotic chromatin are essentially unknown. An outstanding exception is the structure of the nucleosome core particle, the fundamental unit of chromatin structure, as revealed by several crystal structures whose resolution now extends, yada, yada, yada. I mean, this whole paper is about this, okay? But again, I don't know what I'm talking about. I make all this stuff up. Let's do another one here. Let's look at the digital code of DNA. I mean, I just don't even know how many times I have to showcase all this stuff. And yet continue to be told that there is no code. It's just analogy, even though they're applying code theory. And I mean, the digital nature of biological information. The value of having an entire genome sequence is that one can initiate the study of a biological system with a precisely definable digital core of information for that organism, a fully delineated genetic source code. The challenge, then, is in deciphering what information is encoded within the digital code. The genome encodes two main types of digital information: the genes that encode the protein and RNA molecular machines of life, and the regulatory networks that specify how these genes are expressed in time, space, and amplitude. I mean, I don't even know how much more I've got to explain to people, to atheists on YouTube. They just don't seem to grasp all this stuff. What's up, Bubblegum? How you doing?
Oh, wait, let me fix my audio a bit. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're coming through.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just language semantics at this point. Did you remember that conversation with the Can't Help It debate with T-Jump?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know anybody? Do you know what speed of sound answers in atheism?
Oh, yes, I'm very familiar. Okay,
Yeah.
so Speed of Sound is the individual with whom I announced that I'm in like a temporary truce because he helps to support the homeless lady that for my campaign. So we're in temporary truce. Although there's a stream that they did where he defended Beamsy in relation to my review, and so I'm going to have to review that at some point.
Oh yeah,
wait. Sorry. Yes, I do know Speed is continue. My apologies.
Oh yeah, I was gonna bring that up. He made two videos actually, one on Bimsy and one defending the crystal argument from T-Jump.
Yeah, I heard that. It's and I don't know. Here's the part. Here, okay, so Mike, yeah, that's Speed. I'm not using my usual insult for it, my special name. We're in a truce. So he, like these other ones, claimed that I don't understand coding, right? I had a debate with him a year and a half ago. And in so many of the weather reports, they claim that I don't understand what I'm talking about. Yada, yada, yada. The same talking points we heard from Beamsy and tonight from Porpoise, right? And in the whole crystal deal that he was talking about today in relation to T-Jump and such, it's like, Mike, if you actually know this stuff, then you know that what you're claiming is nothing but a compression algorithm and it's not what is being discussed here. So either you don't know what you're talking about and claim that you do, or you are straight up manipulating the reality in order to defend your position, to not actually have to question your dogmatic positions, and to manipulate the minions that follow you and listen to all everything you say as being true, and that debunks people like me. I mean, I just don't know what to say at this point, because it's like it's what's coming down. But anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna explain the argument I think Bimsy was using. He was okay. They're starting off with a presupposition that the DNA code wasn't created. Therefore, you cannot define it as a code because it has no creator. So it's a linguistic semantics they're using because they started off with that presupposition. And this is one interesting thing, because like I watched the whole video from them where they defend T-Jump, and I like how they brought up that they admitted that junk DNA isn't really junk; that's a misnomer. Because one of them brought up, like, for example, one of them used this analogy, like, if I need like a piece of paper to like hold my monitor up, which is like I can't see it if it's like dropped, so I need some sort of piece of junk to hold my monitor up, so that's necessary. But they'll classify it as junk, and I told I'm not sure if you remember when Stand for Truth had this debate with Erica, and Erica made this scientific claim that you can turn off the certain genes in the mouse. I mean, turn off certain junk DNA in the mouse, and it'll work perfectly fine. Well, that experiment should be thrown out the window because you need to remove that junk DNA and then run the experiment.
Well, they do that to some extent with like knockout experiments. But here's the thing. They don't. What they have started to discover is that there's a lot of different things in our genome that only operate in very, very specific scenarios, right? So it's like, oh, I deleted X and the mouse is in my lab. However, I have no idea if the mouse was not in my controlled lab as to whether or not whatever it is that I deleted would actually be applicable and would actually be needed.
Yeah, because like for example, the genes that make your teeth aren't active anymore after like they're done. You can take those out after like you're 15 or something. I mean, after they're already in there.
Well, I mean, there's huge portions of your genome that are only operating while you're like in your mom's uterus.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, all sorts of things get turned off or get repurposed and do something totally different after you get out of like the development stage. So it's like that's my point. Is like there's all sorts of different things that like, oh well, in this particular scenario, when I'm looking at it right now, it doesn't do anything. Therefore, it doesn't do anything. It's like, oh, okay. That again, that's to use a analogy. In this context, for all the atheists, it actually is an analogy. Okay, but you should be able to grasp this. That's like saying if you don't have a flat tire and you're not using the spare or the lug wrench or the jack, therefore they are junk. Because when you're driving and your tires are not flat, you're not using them. And you could take them out of your car and not have them, put them in your garage or put them in a storage unit or toss them in the freaking trash can. And until you have a flat, you didn't need them. Yeah, therefore, they had no function and there was no purpose for them to exist.
Yeah, they gave us similar analogy. They're like, you have like a little cubby drawer of random junk you probably don't use at the moment, but you can use later for something that would be necessary. Like then it's not junk. You just misnaming that junk.
Yeah, it's crazy. What's up, Kelby? Welcome to stream, man. How you doing?
Hello. I don't know if I have much to add as far as the coding stuff. I'm trying to distract myself. I just lost my third and final cat in a year.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Talking to you guys is next best thing, I guess, to getting hammered.
Well, that's true. What? I'm sorry to hear what your cat was. They sick or didn't get like hit by a car or anything, did they?
You know, I'm pretty much convinced the vet killed them because the cat was pretty much fine, but he had shallow breathing for like the last couple of like maybe a few months, like I noticed it. I'm kind of like, should I take him in? Should I take him in? I'm gonna spend the money. What am I gonna do anyway? And then and then finally, I just like, you know what? I'm just gonna do the responsible thing and take him in and just get him looked at. And then they had him back there for like an hour and a half. And then I went up and they were like, well, we so at first they were just like, well, here's some stuff in his lungs, and we're gonna you take some antibiotics, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, I just gave you $350. You're just gonna tell me it might be this or it might. I was trying to be as nice as possible. And then she's like, yeah, antibiotics, maybe it's infection. They think it's a tumor and all this kind of stuff. And you might want to go get a ultrasound for like another $400. And I'm just like, well, is there anything it might be besides a tumor? Probably not. I'm like, then why the hell? But and then they brought the cat back and I'm looking at him and he's like struggling to breathe, like gasping for breath. And she's just kind of like, here you go. He's having some trouble. I'm like, he was not like this when I brought him in. I've never seen him like this. She's like, oh, well, we can go give him some oxygen or something. And then he just started getting worse and worse. She starts coming, well, he seems to be getting worse and worse. So, might take an emergency room. And I'm like thinking he was fine. So long story short, it's very likely just simply the stress of being taken to a vet broke him. So basically, if I would have done nothing, he'd still be alive. And now he's dead and it sucks. So that's my little contribution to everybody's night. Thanks for letting me share.
No, man. It's we all have, it's easy to gain or build connections with your pets and they become part of your family and everything. And I mean, when my little dog got hit by a dump truck a couple years ago, and I mean, it's completely, took him out. It was bad. It was very bad. But thankfully he died instantly, but it was very, every time I think about getting another dog, I'm just like, oh, I can't. I don't know. I'm not ready to bring. I'm probably getting close to getting ready, but it was pretty hard on me because he was my little buddy, man. We did everything together.
That's exactly what I just said. I was like to somebody, I was just like, in the middle of the conversation, I was just like, I can't believe my little buddy's gone. This is the first time in like probably 15 years I haven't had any like mammal pets in the house. So it's just like nothing. It's weird. It's bizarre.
What did you check into like Dr. Ains van Valkenburg, that YouTube commercial lady?
That probably would have been better off.
Apparently,
trying not to think about the fact that it's quite likely just incompetence. I'm thinking like, if I was simply back, like all these, of course it's going to happen. But if I kept thinking about it, man, I would torch that place. I just need to pray.
Well, apparently there's like people who hate her because like she's been accused of killing people's animals. She's like, you should see the testimonies of like some of these people who've been to her clinic.
It's a pretty well-known place, so
she's suing the protesters apparently. So there's a drama there.
It is weird though, because like he was fine. He was absolutely fine. And then she's kind of like, well, here he is. And I'm like, hey, he's not, he can't breathe right now. Well, he might not make it home. And I'm like, well, what? Like he wasn't like this before. Now he is. What is going on here? And she's just kind of like, well, this happens sometimes with cats. He said he had labored breathing. I'm sitting there like, he had labored breathing sometimes, not like this. She's like, I don't know. Like I said, if I put it on the incompetence,
well, I think here's what's really been becoming very apparent to me, not just in the past like 2 years, but over the last 15, is got multiple things. Number one, a lot of doctors are some of the most ridiculously arrogant SOBs in existence. That's number one.
Well, they totally seem like they were winging it. Like
totally. Yep.
Number two,
there's actually
in the modern education system for medicine that we live in, we currently are not enjoying. The premise of investigatory medicine has gone out the window. Critical thinking has just been completely obliterated. It's like type in symptoms into some computer system, spit out the likelihood, and then what medicines or what like surgical function needs to be done for X, Y, and Z. And there's not real investigation into finding the root
I sat there
problem,
saying, they were like, well, like, you're not telling me anything, lady. Like, like, you know, she's just like, well, like the whole thing, that's exactly what you're saying is exactly what it reminded me of. Because like, I felt like I was giving her suggestions, and then she was and then I was like, you know, well, if he's gargling on his, if he can't breathe, can we, and this is still something I don't want to think about, because if his lungs are filling up, you know, because once she put him to sleep right in front of me, all of a sudden just drain it. You just all start draining. And I'm like, couldn't we have just put him to sleep and, you know, or put him in sedation? Wouldn't this stuff have drained out? Give me a stick of freaking turkey baster down his throat, you know? And when I asked about, couldn't we have like sedated him? Wouldn't that have drained him without just killing him? Like the one vet girl kind of paused as if she was kind of looked up like, yeah, that's a good question. And I'm sitting there thinking like, you are freaking kidding me. And like I said, at that point, if I would have let myself go, I would have freaking snapped on those people. So I just kept silent, because at that point my cat was dead. Like, it was just like, okay, this place, like, this just sucks. But yeah, you're right. Incompetence and complete lack of integrity in any kind of learning seems to be the order of the last 10 years. Quality control, done. Critical thinking, done. And yeah, I do think it's completely on purpose, because morons make good slaves, right?
Well, that's very true. And one of the additional things I've identified is, and this correlates with a bunch of other things, but which I won't go off on a rabbit trail on, but we now also are witnessing in full display the unavoidable outcome of a shortage in supply of medical professionals, right? It's a known fact. We have a huge shortage of doctors. And it's like, like case in point. And I don't know what the numbers are right now. I know it's more than this, but let's see, about 7 years ago, I was researching stuff for a startup. And one of the factors I came across was like the family practice doctors, for example. The average one has 10,000 patients. So average is 10,000 patients per family practice doctor. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the majority of, like, there's a greater percentage of doctors, right, that are like general practitioners, right, versus specialists. And if the average one of them has 10,000 patients, then you can just do some very basic thinking here, right, in terms of how many average specialists are there, or how many average patients are there per specialist, right? And then we wonder why when you go to the doctor and you get maybe 10, 15 minutes of their time, and they're off to the next one, and they're cramming in more and more patients each day, and they're having to rely, which is, and this is forcing them to rely more and more on software, on EHR records that are supposedly being able to be analyzed to help them, reach better conclusions, like kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, that doesn't
of healthcare.
That logic would not be deemed reasonable in any other kind of business, right? Oh, so you're a consultant that's an expert in XYZ type of business scenario. Let you, individual, I want you to go solve problems for 1,000 different businesses individually, right? And then you're like, no, now you need to do it for 10,000. Not from a mass application of a solution, but you need to go consult with each one individually, identify the root problem for them, and then come up with a specific solution for that particular business problem. Everybody's like, you want me to have 10,000 businesses I do this for? You're crazy. But that's exactly what we're doing in healthcare. But anyway, let's see. We've got two more people who joined us. We got Rebel Nazarene was first, and then Nadimos has joined. What's up, Rebel? How you doing? Welcome to the stream.
Yo, what's up, bro? Yeah, I don't know if you looked into the origin history of modern day allopathic medicine, but it starts with the Rockefellers. What's his name? One guy by the name of James Corbett. He has a channel that YouTube took down. I think he still might be on Odyssey or another alternative media platform. It's called the Corbett Report. He has a great little video or documentary about, I think it's called Rockefeller Medicine. We all know they were like big, what's the word for it? Not businessmen, but like tycoons for like the oil industry. And they basically figured out some way to create petroleum-based medicine, and that's how we got the majority of the pharmaceutical industry today, because it's all based off petrochemicals basically. And then just to add to that, there's also another guy I follow. His name is David Whitehead, also known as the Truth Warrior. And right now he has an absolutely amazing, it's all free. I can't believe it. I donated like at least $20 to him just because the value is just, it's so much. He has a 6-part docuseries called The Cult of the Medics. Cult of the Medics. And it's just, he goes over all the history, all the origins, all the, the cult and esoteric, even mystery school origins of modern medicine today, and how there's even a Kabbalistic ideology, and from all the esoteric mystery schools, and Gnosticism, Hermeticism, stuff like that. It's pretty great. I'm pretty sure it's on. You can find it on cultofthemedics.com. So if anyone's interested, you can go there. He's coming out with a 7th part soon. So I really recommend that. But originally, I was going to say, I heard you talking about atheism and stuff like that, and you're going sort of into the whole DNA, coding argument. Well, you probably remember me from the stream before, after the post Kent TJ Jump debate about evolution, with me and Iger. I would say myself that the flat Earth revelation is a far easier, much simpler way of proving God's existence than going sort of into the whole mechanics of DNA.
Wait, did you just say using flat Earth is a better way to prove God?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. You do realize that the flat Earth was like, it was socialist propaganda to debunk the Vatican, to like discredit the Vatican during like the 1800s. So
I'm not sure where you're getting that from.
All right, hang on. Before we go down the globe, birth of the flurfs. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Nadimos is up next. What's up, man? Welcome to the stream.
Yeah.
And
Hey.
Jamie's joining us as well. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good.
Howdy.
Well, I mean, do you guys know about the over 2 dozen documents from NASA, the CIA, and the U.S. military that all claim the Earth is flat and stationary?
No, I think that it's more of a conspiracy that people are like feeding you guys. The people like in the CIA are promoting flat earthers to discredit creationists.
Nonsense, all nonsense. Come on. The documents you're talking about where they say according to a flat Earth, stationary flat Earth, is because they're not. There's just a mention to say we did not figure in the fact that the Earth is moving. It's being precise. That's all that means. It's all. They're just saying we didn't take into account in our calculations that those factors, and so they list that as being not considered in the equations that they, or whatever testing they were doing. That's all that means. They're not admitting to a flat Earth, just to be clear.
A 15-degree drift.
So the Earth is actually moving at astronomical speeds, up to like nearly 500,000 miles per hour. But when it comes to technical reports for applied physics,
relative to what?
Yes, it's relative, and I know. Yes, it's 66,600 miles an hour.
Relative to what? If you look up how fast the Earth is moving,
If something's moving, it needs to be moving in relation to something else. Otherwise,
what?
There's no motion.
Okay, here's a quick example. If you're like in a train that's going like you ever been in a high-speed train? They go pretty dang fast. You don't feel the G-forces like you're like in a jet pilot.
What's your point?
It's relative.
We should probably let Nadimos get in on this before we get too deep into this rabbit hole.
I mean, I don't. I'm not a physics person, so.
Bubble.
See my picture. See my picture. With my hand
Okay. Before we're look, let's take a quick time out from the flat Earth debate or arguments. So Nadimos, welcome to the stream. I don't know. Have you been on my channel before, or if you have, it's been a while, I think.
No. Not that I remember anyway.
Yeah, I don't,
if I
don't-
have, then it's a mystery to me.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen you in side chat quite a bit, but I don't think I didn't think
Yeah,
you
yeah.
joined. And obviously, I know you for sure. You hadn't joined on camera, that's for sure.
No.
What's so? If I'm remembering correctly, you are an atheist, correct?
Currently, yes.
Okay. Did you watch the entirety of the little video that I reviewed tonight?
Yeah. And I had seen Sinister Porpoise's video before the stream.
Okay. And
the YouTube algorithm,
oh yeah, of course. So
funneled me in there.
So what is your position on what you have observed?
On the idea of an intelligence being required for DNA to be what it is?
Well, not even that yet. In regards to the supposed debunking and complete obliteration
right.
of me
No.
do you think that the positions were substantiated? The arguments that were made against me were substantiated or not?
I'd say not. I'd say you did a good job of interlocking with that content. So
okay, so then step further in relation to the actual argument itself. Have you analyzed it? If yes, what's your conclusion, or what's your position?
So I haven't personally spent a ton of time on this argument in particular. So, and I got a bit distracted. I'm going to just be completely honest that I got a bit distracted by the side chat. So,
that's fair. That happens.
Yeah. And so, my overall conclusion, and I alluded to this in the side chat before I appeared on the stream, was just that given the fact that we can't necessarily replicate the initial conditions of the Earth, when let's just grant, right, for the sake of argument, like an old Earth, potential primordial soup, blah 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 blah, like those conditions aren't necessarily easily repeatable or replicable in a lab setting per se. So I just land in general that the chemicals and nucleotides that we have that make us up, since we can't currently generate them, I don't know why that we have to gravitate towards a particular explanation or a designer for them. I personally am willing to rest in I don't know how these chemicals are the way that they are. They interact with the world in the way that what they do. And I'm not going to, masturbate my mind over it.
No, see, I get that, but here's the point that I make of this all the time, and I think very often completely. I'm not saying applying this to you. I'm talking about the Beamsies and the Porpoises of the world, right? That seem to miss the obvious, which is you can still hold that you think that we will find another alternative explanation, right? But claiming that reaching the conclusion that a intelligent agent is a very viable explanation, it cannot be substantiated, that an intelligent agent being the explanation is not a remotely coherent conclusion based on what we know from direct observation, right? And this is one of the premises in the argument is all other known codes required foreknowledge, right? And have required intelligent agents, right? So if in any other context, if you know beyond all doubt what is necessary for X to happen is Y, then it would be, well, yeah, but I'm talking just in general, right? Like I know that in any other context, this is what is required for this to occur, right? Then while there might be exceptions or there might be another potential explanation for it, that could be hypothetical. In any other context, you would immediately conclude that the one that you know beyond all doubt can account for it is the most likely explanation. Is that, you follow my train of thought there?
Isn't SETI based on that principle? The idea that we could intercept a code in space and know it's an intelligent source?
Well, 100%. I mean, that's that's the irony, is that if we like, one of the things we've set off in our like broadcast to the stars and what we're hoping to see and all that kind of stuff would be like prime numbers, all these different things being sent in a coded fashion, which is hilarious to me. Like, oh, if we receive a code that would be equal to, prime numbers, all this kind of stuff, then we would know there's an intelligent agent out there. And it's like, okay, cool. So without actually directly observing these intelligent agents sending this information, we would be able to rationally deduce that it was intelligent agents sending said encoded information. However, the encoded information is necessary for me to exist. While there could hypothetically be another explanation for it, that would be natural, that would not be the necessity of a preceding intelligent agent. While that could possibly happen, we're going to 100% exclude that one from being a potential reasonable explanation. Like, that's literally what is being done by the people I call the Evo atheists on YouTube. And it's being done very dogmatically, while simultaneously claiming that folks like myself don't understand what freaking code is. And it gets me every time. But before we continue on that, ladies and gentlemen, look who we have Grr Mania.
So one of the things that
check, please.
Go ahead, Adios. I went on a tirade there. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. One of the things that, as I hear you, I get it. Like, I'm wondering about this. So, like, if we know that, like, certain chemicals will, if I give a certain amount of chemical A and a certain amount of chemical B, it's going to produce, resultant chemical C and byproduct extra runoff chemical A or whatever. Like, we know that at a fundamental molecular level that, like, these kind of brute fact transaction things happen in chemistry. At what point of, let's say, an acclimation of these chemical reactions happening concurrently by the nature of their position in the known universe, would we say that, like, a sequence of them becomes language or code? Would you ever say that?
A book is just pen, ink on paper.
Oh, I just remember you're the person that was chatting with in the chat, right?
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. What you guys do? I mean, you guys have to get. I just realized you guys have to give an explanation. Why does plants and animals share the same alphabet?
Well, hold on. But that's a bit of a shift from my question.
Oh,
right?
yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so the code form itself, right? That is the fundamental question that has a $10 million prize associated with it. And by the way, for everybody, I have a second interview with the man behind said $10 million prize, Perry Marshall, coming up on the 25th of this month, where Perry Marshall explains the cognition before codes model that he's put forth. Actually, it's peer-reviewed, it's published. A whole plethora of very well respected scientists are actually in collaboration with him on this, including origin of life researchers like Lee Cronin of all folks, who recognize that there is way more going on that has to be accounted for and all this stuff. But that is the ultimate question, right? So that's why I raised the point to you of like, it's the equivalent of saying, oh, if we bounced enough shapes around over and over again, or like electrical impulses around, eventually binary is going to create itself, or like ASCII is going to create itself out of electrical impulses running through like whatever. Like, I don't think anybody would ever even look at that as a remotely plausible thing to even consider. And you sure as heck wouldn't ever, I don't think anybody would rationally say that the impulse and then the bytes and then the assignment of the zeros and ones being equal to letter, like another alphabet, would ever occur without an intelligent agent. So the medium, this is the point that I'm making, I make this all the time, is the medium that contains a code is irrelevant. Just because, I can use this. I can use light or sound or electrical impulses to transmit Morse code. That means nothing. Like the medium that's being used is irrelevant to what is the source of the information in the code mapping, and then obviously the syntax, semantics, and pragmatics that are applied to it. Because in order for that to happen, you have to have a translation mechanism which knows both source and target, and that is unavoidable. And the thing is, in communication theory, it's recognized as unavoidable in every context, except when you jump over into biology. It's like, well, we know you have to have all these things, but we're gonna come up with some like all these crazy hypotheticals as to where somehow the thing that we know must occur, must be in existence prior to. We're gonna come up with crazy hypotheticals as to somehow if we can be creative enough, we can come up with a way that somehow that could be circumvented. Because that's what these models are. That are how the code could form itself. Well, if you don't actually have to have the entire code, even though you don't have a way to translate it, if it just is like it's forming itself, and then at some point, some other thing comes along that can like kind of sort of bridge and be the translator. It doesn't actually know what it is. It's not quantified. The translation mechanism can't actually do the translation because they don't freaking exist yet. But somehow the translation is going to happen. That doesn't, even though the translation mechanism doesn't exist. Like that's what's being argued here. This is the most gigantic unanswered question in terms of our very freaking existence. Like, what is the known, beyond all doubt, fundamental necessity for us to exist, for life to exist? It's the freaking genetic code. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's an unavoidable reality. Without it, no life exists. Period.
What was Nemidus's question?
Virus, real quick. In Beamsy's video, right? That dumbass was going on about viruses, right? Viruses have genetic code in them, right? They hijack ribosomes to read said code that's in said virus in order to execute its own replication. Like, if you don't have the code, you don't have a freaking virus. So you have to get down. Anyway, enough of my diatribe. It's go ahead. You can respond now. I'm sorry for my tangent there.
What was your question, Nemidus?
So it's basically that at what point do we characterize the brute facts of chemical interactions as code versus randomness or chaos or just
arbitrary assignment?
Arbitrary assignment, yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. And I don't know if you've heard me go on my tangent about this, but it's well recognized that the stereochemical models, the coevolution models, all that kind of stuff have been.
Which, by the way, sorry, Tess meant in the comments, I don't know what the hell stereochemical theory is off the cuff. Like, I'm working off the cuff here, so.
No, I got you. But one of the things that I read on a regular basis when I have these discussions is. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Because it directly addresses the questions that you're raising right now. Is that let's see, where is that? Nope. Let's see here. So I can find that one I'm looking for. Here we go. Okay. More precisely, the genetic code has been accepted under the assumption that its rules were determined by chemistry and do not have the arbitrariness that is essential in any real code. The theoretical premise of this assumption is the belief that there cannot be arbitrary rules in nature, and this inevitably implies that the genetic code is a metaphorical entity, not a real code. This idea has a long history, and let's not forget that for many decades it has been the dominant view in molecular biology. What's going on here? Okay. The very first model of the genetic code was the stereochemical theory, an idea proposed by George Gamow in 1954, and later reproposed by many other authors, which states that the relationship between codons and amino acids were the result of stereochemical affinities. The second canonical model was the coevolution theory proposed by Wong, according to which the genetic code co-evolved with the biochemical pathways that introduced new amino acids in protein synthesis. Both theories imply that the rules of the genetic code are chemically determined and no arbitrariness exists in them. It has taken a long time and much experimental work to overturn this conclusion, but eventually it has been shown that there is no deterministic link between codons and amino acids because any codon can be associated with any amino acid. This means that the rules of the genetic code do not descend from chemical necessity. In this sense, they are arbitrary. So, quick sidebar. This is why I go off on people like Porpoise and others who just say, oh, it's just chemical reactions. This means nothing. It's like, well, did you not comprehend what I just said or just read? Today, in other words, we have the experimental evidence that the genetic code is a real code, a code that is compatible with the laws of physics and chemistry, but is not dictated by them. Our problem, therefore, is to take stock of this reality and to account for it. So the point being, it's for the average person who has an IQ above Forrest Gump, you're able to grasp that the excuse or the escape mechanism of it's just chemical reactions, chemical affinities, et cetera, has been debunked by empirical experimentation. And this is the reality. So it goes back to, from the origination perspective, if you don't have chemical affinity and it's just, oh, it's just going to happen, given enough time and enough spins, it's going to somehow occur. You have to account for the adapters that are necessary for translation, all these different things, right? And everyone's atheists on YouTube, not all, but a significant percentage, want to act like you don't have to address this. And you can just, go back to the 1954 model or the 1970, whatever was the long model, and be like, oh, well, it's just chemical reactions. We don't have to account for this, when the experimentation says the exact opposite. And then now with what humans are doing, we are creating our own codes doing the exact same thing heck, we've got genetic codes we're using with DNA that we have like 8 letters instead of 4. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy stuff we're doing with our own coding, which showcases that it's just chemistry is not accounting for the actual information that's present. But anyway, what are you showing there, Jamie?
Have you heard of this? This is just a brief overview of this Zipf's law. Have you heard of that? Anybody?
Oh yeah, yep. There's papers on Zipf's law's application in the genetic code, by the way.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that. Do you want to play a part of this just real quick? It's like a few seconds long. It's like 20 seconds. This part where he explains it. If you want, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you can play it, and then the Mind Says joined us, and Sal joined us as well. So yeah, go play real quick, and then we'll get over to them.
English, or in just one book article, almost every time a bizarre pattern emerges. The second most used word will appear about half as often as the most used. The third, 1/3 as often. The fourth, 1/4 as often. The fifth, 1/5 as often. The sixth, 1/6 as often, and so on, all the way down. Seriously. For some reason, the amount of times a word is used is just proportional.
Did the volume drop for anybody else?
Yeah, we lost the volume. Jamie, we lost the volume.
I cannot hear. Yeah, I don't hear
Jamie,
what's happening.
Jamie, I think you must put it on mute.
That is so annoying.
Dang it,
Jamie.
I'm sorry, what's that?
You put it on mute. We're not here.
We can't hear.
Oh, you can't hear it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We were hearing it, and then the audio faded.
You must have been hearing it through my microphone then, because I turned my microphone off. That's all I did.
Oh, okay.
I can hear.
We haven't.
Where did you stop out here? Probably here.
Probably.
For some reason, the amount of times a word is used is just proportional to 1 over its rank. Word frequency and ranking on a log-log graph follow a nice straight line, a power law. This phenomenon is called Zipf's law. And it doesn't only apply to English. It also applies to other languages like, well, all of them. Even ancient languages we haven't been able to translate yet. And here's the thing, we have no idea why. It's surprising that something as complex as reality should be conveyed by something as creative as language in such a predictable way. How predictable? Well, watch this. According to wordcount.org, which ranks words as found in...
We don't see the video now.
Yeah, I don't know what just happened there.
I just did that. I didn't do anything. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, yeah, it's interesting. And like I said, there's a actually I'm in my folder. I don't pull it up right now, but I've got a paper literally titled "Zipf's Law in Gene Expression." That's the literal title of the paper. But anyway, we got
The literal title.
the literal title, Germania. I know it's difficult for you to actually go down rabbit holes, and you like make all these assertions that you've
I
like
just make sure
researched
it's
all
the
these
literal
things.
title. That's all.
Well, it's funny that I get made fun of for using that word by a bunch of dumbasses who don't go and actually determine whether or not something is true or false, and then they just buy into talking points they regurgitate. They get obliterated on like a daily basis, and then claim the other person to prove their point. It's really amazing how that happens on an ongoing
That's
basis.
how humans learn, though. They imitate others.
That's true. But anyway, okay. So the Mind Says join us, and then Sal came for that. So what's up, Mind Says? How you doing? Welcome to the stream. What's on your mind?
What's up? Can y'all hear me? Hello.
Yeah, you're coming through.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to be a part of the conversation. I like what you're saying, and I could definitely get behind you on the whole what's it called? That DNA is a form of code, and there's some kind of intelligent design to it.
I appreciate it. Hey, listen, quick caveat. Don't say DNA is the code. All right. The genetic code is contained. The DNA is the medium which contains the code.
Yeah, they're very linguistic. Like,
and two reasons for that. Number one is that not all, but a significant percentage of atheists on YouTube suffer from the atheist hyperliteralist disorder. Okay, also known as AHLD. And if you just use the word DNA, even though everybody else knows that you mean the genetic code, they say, "Oh well, there's non-coding regions of the DNA," and if you don't issue a caveat every single time that you're talking about the genetic code that is in the DNA, they will just sit there and try to debunk you. So again, the case in point, like in the video I reviewed tonight, right? In my original code argument video, I specifically used genetic code throughout the entire video, didn't use DNA, in order to account for that dumbass regurgitated talking point from atheists. I even made jokes about how I should probably spend 10 minutes issuing caveats to account for all these different things. Every single atheist who has reviewed that video has made the freaking DNA argument. Oh, it's just DNA. It's not really. They've done that every single time, even though I specifically anticipated. I had foreknowledge of this, just like, oh my goodness, the coder, the person who writes the code has the foreknowledge of what the intended outcome is. Well, in this context, I'm being able to anticipate the outcome of the traditional YouTube atheist, and they lo and behold, they proved me correct. So anyway, enough of my tangent there. Hope that made sense. Just make sure you always remember at the back of your head when you're referring to the code. But continue.
I appreciate your critique. Yeah, I'll definitely keep that in mind.
No, it's not a critique. It's just an insight, because I've been doing
your observation.
Yeah, if you show these people like a picture of a key, and if you ask them, well, what is this? They'll say key, but in reality, it's just brass. Like not all the key is necessary for it to function, but they'll admit it's a key. But when they say key, they're basically saying it's a code. It's a linguistic semantics game.
Well, and it's just like, now Sal's joined us as well. So what I'm about to say is a good segue into, kind of one of Sal's positions, right? So Sal likes to but not argue as adamantly as I do in terms of the information in the code argument, right? Sal loves to argue on relation to the three-dimensional structures, the physical object, the molecular machines, and all those different aspects that are necessary in proteins and such. And the same semantic gamesmanship comes into play in the the positions that Sal takes, right? It's like, oh, well, it's not really a machine. It's not really doesn't really have a mechanical function. It's just a chemical reaction. It's interesting how they always everything is just chemical reactions, right? And they just want to dismiss all of that. And Sal brings lots of interesting arguments in relation to that, and examples of like, you guys are just ignorant fools who are making these dogmatic claims. But what's up, Sal? How you doing? Welcome to the stream. What's going on in your world? And am I correct in my what I was describing in relation to how you approach a lot of this stuff?
Actually, I don't use the machine argument. I don't use the machine or code argument, even though I believe they are machines and they are codes. I used the chemistry as a probability. So the best example is James Tour just crushing Dave Farina. That was just epic, where you took textbook chemistry and said this reaction is unnatural. Now, as far as people saying this is just chemistry, there's no intelligent design, it's like saying a pharmaceutical that has a chemical reaction that helps heal someone is just a chemical reaction, that there's no design needed. It's an idiotic argument.
Yeah, they're just looking at they're looking at a brass key and trying to deny it's a key. It's like saying it's brass. It's like,
yeah.
Well, you know what really cracks me up about that is in the context of the past 2 years, where we have nothing but you must take something that is genetic information and that forms a spike protein object, and then like this is what is everybody is being bombarded with, right? And it's like, no, well, that's not really what that is. And then it'd be like, no, there was no intelligent agency necessary to create the nanolipids and the packaging of said gene therapy, quote unquote, vaccine that's being injected into you to perform a specific function. That in no way, shape, form, or fashion was the end outcome of intelligent agency. That was just a bunch of chemical reactions. I mean, like, no, if you said that to any of the individuals who, like, in everywhere, if you made that exact same argument, you'd be looked at like you are one of the dumbest, most ignorant morons on the planet if you were making that argument, right?
And it's not even that. They claim it's a lipid bilayer, but that's not the cell's membranes have all these what they call transmembrane proteins, and James Tour made a point of that. You need a living cell is not the thing that encapsulates it is more than just that little bilayer.
It's fat.
It has all these ports
It's
that
just
open
oil.
and close and can discriminate between something that's very large, like say the size, by way of analogy, the size of a city, and then also letting things that are only like the size of a baseball through by comparison in terms of the relative sizes of the molecules that have to go through. We can't even engineer stuff from scratch that is that good. I showed the potassium ion channel. It's precise within angstroms. We can't make anything like that. Our best technology cannot do anything that good. And it just doesn't arise by accident. And unless you have this to begin with, the cell's dead. It's a coffin. It's a tomb. So there's a lot of rhetorical gamesmanship. And what was great about James Tour, he was just ripping Dave Farina and just kind of making fun of the whole origin of life community that is just delusional and is ignoring basic chemistry, because the alternative is there was an intelligent designer. Now, he doesn't go as far to say that he believes in intelligent design in the scientific sense, although I think he personally believes it. But he won't go that far to say that, his science proves it. But he did a great job of showing that it's not a natural process.
Hey LP, I know you guys, most of you guys are averted to my perspective, but since I do know now that there's an atheist on the panel, can I just ask him one hypothetical question? I'm probably going to get out of here soon.
Sure.
Yeah. So Nadimos, do you? I mean, would you agree? I might use like a little bit of a Socratic method here, but do you agree the Earth is like?
Oh, whoops.
Did you kick him?
No, hey, Rebel, you can come back.
Denied.
No. There were two instances of him showing up in, like, there was one backstage as well, and I thought he had like joined twice, so I was like kicking that one, and I kicked him both. So Rebel, come back in and ask your question. Sorry, I didn't mean to kick you. I thought I was kicking the one that was backstage. So come back in, and
I've done that before.
You can ask your question.
The timing was on point.
Yeah, I know. It's totally unintentional, actually. It's proof that random chance can take care of everything. Even though I was still operating as an intelligent agent prior to my accidental discharge that happened to be timed perfectly. Interesting. Okay, he's back. Okay, sorry about that, Rebel. Go ahead.
Oh, it's all
Go on,
good.
Rebel.
Damn, I thought I was getting punked. That was funny. But no. So the Demos, would you agree that the Earth is like a very big planet or environment that we live in?
Yes.
You would say yes, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Am I allowed to share my screen at all, LP?
Yeah, okay, sure.
As long as it's not what's his name, right? Eric Dubé.
No, that dude's Gnostic yoga freak into like a bunch of the Eastern mysticism kind of stuff. So yeah.
I did want to comment on your claims about the medical industry too, but I'll wait.
Hey. So how did those accusations? How did they make you feel, Bubblegum?
What accusations?
Never mind.
Okay. Anyway, where are we going with this?
Okay. No. Okay. So you said yes, the Earth is a very big place, but see, I asked you that because do you also believe in this picture that I have up here on the screen?
I don't know if there's 40 billion habitable planets. That's quite the claim.
Or okay, but you do agree that there's more than just the Earth as a planet in the entire universe, right?
Okay, yeah, there's more planets than Earth.
And then
I'll submit to that. Sure.
And that there's a chance that there might be life on those other planets as well?
It's possible.
Okay. So, but you realize in relation, you already agree that the Earth is a very big, if you stand on top of a mountain, it can take your breath away and make you feel very small. So, but the Earth being very big and relative to the entire universe actually is a very small speck of dust, isn't it?
Yep.
So you see how it's kind of a little bit of a mind fuck to make that dichotomy?
Okay.
Okay, so what I'm asking you is,
I'm not
how
sure I
about
follow.
how about if someone proved to you, now this is my hypothetical question, how about if someone proved to you that actually this is all just nothing but a nice cartoon rendition of CGI or whatever?
Are you a flat earther?
And
Out
that
of curiosity.
I don't have any labels. You can call me biblical cosmologist, but I don't associate with that label.
Okay.
So how about if someone proved to you that this is actually the real thing, okay, and that actually the Earth, which you see down here, is the only plane of existence in our reality.
Wow.
Are you saying the Earth is two-dimensional now? I thought it was flat, not sideways.
Is your view that this is for the sake of making us feel like we're small, so that is that what this is? Because my view on that is we should feel like we're small in the face of God and His creation.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you realize though that the arguments that you're using are not actual positive arguments? You're pointing to it's something that's like essentially a misunderstanding, and then saying, "Look, I'm justified in doubting that this is true," rather than making a positive argument for your claims.
You're making Christians look bad, bro.
No, I'm just saying, like, if what I'm saying is true, that the Earth is truly the only plane of existence, and that this is impossible because there's only Earth and heaven, right?
Oh my god!
You do realize that, like, interacting with people around the world on YouTube relies on a globe, right?
Just a show of hands. Who here believes that the Earth is flat?
Rebel, you are not your ideas. Okay, don't be a slave to ideas. This is why people don't have free will, because they keep binding themselves to like these ideas and principles.
Where did free will come from?
And your ideas.
Hang on. Bubblegum, did you just say that this debunks free will?
No, I'm saying like don't. No, I'm saying like. No, I'm saying a reason people don't have free will. It's because they keep tying themselves to these ideas. They think they are their ideas. So, for example, some people like do dumb shit on behalf of their ideas. Like for example, Karens. They're like, oh
Do
my
they
my
really choose those ideas?
That's a great example. I totally. I'm with you, man. I'm with you now on this thing.
Okay, has anybody read Max Stirner?
Never heard of him.
Okay, Max Stirner is basically okay. Has anybody seen Fight Club?
Yes. Love it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, well, don't no. Nobody has seen Fight Club.
Yeah, nobody. We don't talk about that. What?
I saw pixels on a monitor. That's
Okay.
right.
Anyway, that which shall not be talked about. The moral of that movie is don't let stuff own you. Own the stuff, but don't let it own you. And Max Stirner is saying the same thing, but with ideas. Like own ideas, but don't let ideas own you.
Oh, I know. We're just the medium of ideas living out their lives, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah, you become a slave to the idea.
What is this
What
video?
does this have to do with what you're proposing, though?
It just said the sun is a comet. That's horse shit.
If you ask any astrophysicist what the heliocentric cosmology is, this is what they're going to tell you it is.
You are absolutely making people mock Christianity. Do not call yourself a cosmologist. That's not what you are.
Well, don't get me wrong, I'm down for it, but not at this expense. I mean,
Okay, so I don't even. Okay, so let's assume that the sun is a comet, and the planets are swirling around or whatever. Okay, let's assume that's true. Doesn't that, by definition, debunk flat Earth?
That's a
No,
good point.
I'm showing you how ridiculous what you guys believe in is.
We don't believe that diagram. That's just an illustration of how.
You guys aren't astrophysicists because this is what the physicists say.
What did the physicists say?
That
this is the nature of the heliocentric.
It's a model. It's a relative. It's how they are relative to each other. Moving through the galaxy, it doesn't look like that. I mean, I'm not sure how far you're taking it.
So why do they give us these numbers then?
No, right. That's how they relatively move to each other. But you could model it a different way too. I mean, you could.
Okay, real quick. We're hey, listen. We're gonna take a quick time out from, flat Earth.
Oh
and
no,
comet,
this is
and,
good.
And like sun,
this
and sun is a
stuff.
comet.
Oh, this is wonderful.
No. Listen.
No, John, you're
Listen, Gur. I know that you want substantiation of
I
your
want this to
dumbass talking
continue.
points. Okay. So I know you want that substantiation, and you're just like giggling over there like a little schoolgirl.
Me
It's
too.
like, my little preconceived notions are totally true. Oh, I'm gonna do a
I
stream
know
about
not all
this.
Christians
I'm gonna do a
believe this.
stream about
Okay.
this. Oh my goodness!
Exactly.
Yes, that's what it. Yeah. Okay.
I
Anyway,
know.
real quick, I have very important questions for our latest joiner, which is Jackson Rowe, WWE.
Oh, hey, Jackson.
So multiple things. Number one, Jackson, have you gotten a response? Did you get a response? Number two, have you issued the Uber request? And number three, what's going on in Ukraine?
Number four, do you believe in a flat Earth? Sorry, I had to ask.
Well, no, I don't believe in a flat Earth. I was supposed to have a debate tonight
yeah,
on
Jackson.
Standing for Truth, but I had a migraine. I'm just starting to get over it now.
Okay, so I wasn't okay. I thought that was supposed to be tonight, and I went and
Yeah.
checked, and it was like 24 hours. Like, it showed me like 25 hours from now, and I'm like, what? I could have sworn there was
Yeah,
a
I think
debate
it's
tonight.
tomorrow now. So I'm still not feeling great, but I'm enough to function. So, but I wasn't.
Okay, so here's the real question then, Jackson. Was
Yeah.
your migraine a result of not enough sleep or like sleep deprivation due to watching Ukraine-Russia battles in real time in an attempt to get to 10 million views on Twitter?
Yeah, it probably was actually. I was up most of the night, and I've been up most nights these last week or so. So that's probably what it is. But about the girl, we've been talking back and forth, but we're not going to meet anytime soon. She's basically so depressed that she's going to commit herself, is what she's saying.
Oh man.
So,
I'm sorry to hear that, Jackson.
Why is she depressed?
I don't know why she's depressed. She doesn't
She's depressed because Jackson doesn't have the CO Jones to send an Uber to pick her up.
Okay.
So that he can come over and he can
That means
and he can
huevos.
give her comfort. And he can
Yeah.
give her comfort.
Oh,
So
my.
Jackson, at this point, you do realize that you are now fully responsible for the ongoing perpetuation of her
Are
depression.
you okay with premarital sex then for Jackson?
Say yes.
I'm not. Keep it in your pants. Keep the cow in the barn.
Jackson,
Bring on it.
Jackson, women don't want you to solve their problems. They want a
I'm not
shoulder.
trying to solve problems, but I'm not trying to make them worse.
Well, they want a shoulder to cry on. They want a dick to cry on. More likely.
That's no.
They do.
Okay, so bubblegum, I think you need to listen. I would suggest retracting that statement and saying you misspoke because you just stated that you want a woman to cry on your penis.
He meant Richard. He meant Richard.
And dude, that's really weird. Like that's really, I'm really concerned now.
I retract.
How you treat women, and I think that perhaps there's a Me Too case in your future.
I think he meant LP. He want an LPP.
Okay, I retract the statement, but it's more of a metaphor. Like they just want comfort. They want somebody to hear them out so they can cry it out. The only way people heal is by crying. They gotta cry. Why do you think God made tears?
Nothing wrong with that.
Right, but they don't.
Which
cry
God?
But dude, if a woman was crying, listen, a woman crying on your penis is not a good way to heal.
There's probably a name for that. It's
Doesn't say very much about you either.
That comes after the crying. I mean.
Okay, hang on. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, hang on. We have a serious question needs to be asked to Bubblegum now. Dude, are you a post-coitus crier?
My grandmother had coitus.
What?
Be honest, Bubblegum. Are you a post-coitus crier?
Mine too.
Is that a real
thing? That actually is a real phenomenon.
No. I'm of the opinion that women are into being raped.
Gross.
Okay, Bernie Sanders.
Hey, how do you want to be?
Now I don't want to be on the stream anymore.
Look,
I know.
If you've been with women, they like it rough.
If you want it, it's not rape.
Okay, gentlemen, we're okay.
Ask him about interracial mixing.
Okay, we're going to halt this and do not ever go down the rabbit hole of Bernie Sanders. Okay.
Do not ever go down the rabbit hole of what women want when we're all white dudes talking about not that.
And
I've ran into a few women in my day. I think I can say a little bit about it.
Yeah, look, I've been with.
Hold on. No, listen. We're going. Listen. No, we're going to halt this trajectory.
Can we talk about flat Earth some more?
Of stupidity, because no.
I want flat Earth
banned.
theories.
Now, however, Nadimos making a dumbass comment that, we're white men, therefore we can have no opinion that is substantiated or valid. That's
he's a good leftist.
Whoa, no. When you're gonna say things like women really want X, Y, or Z behaviors from us, that is just
I'm sorry. They like being dominated.
Bubble just likes to be.
Okay, I'm done. No, I'm not going to support this.
I just want to say,
Nadimas.
Okay, Bubble.
I apologize, Nadimas. Come back.
No, but you did say women want to be raped or something to that effect.
Well,
did you not?
Look, not literally, but they like to be dominated.
Okay, so figuratively, how does that make sense?
We're going to just stop this topic, okay?
I mean, that was really fucking stupid.
Flat Earth was more reasonable than
I never thought I'd say that, but flat Earth actually made more sense than
in this context, I think we need to ask Germania some questions. So
gotta go.
How are you feeling much better about yourself after your like all of those atheists were there just like bowing and scraping to you and talking about how amazing you were for coming after me last night? That make you feel good about yourself?
I feel pretty good, yeah.
Oh, I missed it. What happened?
Oh, well, John can explain.
I didn't watch all of it. I only watched
Boo.
So he was going through a bunch of my old videos and trying to convince himself that he knew what he was talking about, and just debunking me and showing how I'm like this horrible human being. Well, every 30 seconds being like, now listen, I like John. He's I call him my friend. I don't know if he'll call me a friend after this.
I had to soften the blow, bro.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yes, because I was
He
just
needs-
so
he needs
I'm
fodder.
I'm so devastated. I'm so devastated by all of that language. Yes, it was terrific.
It was a great stream.
It was horrific. Yeah. Oh yeah, I noticed there was a bunch of people over there just having a grand old time. It was pretty interesting.
I bet he was nicer than he was about Smokey.
I
Actually,
didn't.
yeah,
I didn't say that.
probably so. Maybe. I don't remember.
Are you saying that you were nicer to about Smokey than me?
No. I think I was nicer towards you than I was to Smokey.
I would suspect so.
Yeah.
Speculation, though, of course.
Because Smokey, well, it's neither here nor there, but John I actually appreciate. I can't say the same about Smokey. And
so
how are you saying all women like rough play?
yeah, I'm kind of still hung up on that too, in all honesty. Like it's
Okay,
really hard to move on from that.
Okay, and we're really listen.
If you
We're
say that,
not.
you're-
We're
He doesn't want
not-
to go there.
He doesn't want to go there.
I bet he doesn't want to go there. He says something stupid.
Well, that's
doesn't
where we're
want to
at.
go into it.
We can go. We can chat on Discord if you like.
Yeah, I'll start a stream tomorrow about this topic or something. No, I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, it's truly, sincerely fucked up to say women want to be raped.
Okay, so
moving
So
on.
the thing is, are you just doing this to be provocative, or are you a piece of shit?
Triggered.
Okay, so the real question is, we're not going to repeat those words again. Okay. However, given the fact that Bernie Sanders actually wrote op-eds
What aboutism is all
about
this is, John?
this exact topic, where he actually stated exactly that is what women want.
Well, then
how
fuck his opinion. So
Okay,
that's
cool.
Hashtag not all.
So, do you formally and publicly debunk any and all things supported by Bernie Sanders?
That comment, absolutely.
So, you think somebody who wrote about this 40 years ago, while he was an elected official,
should be called out?
So, yeah, I agree, but he's not by the media, even though it's well known that this is what happened. If you actually took the time to do any research,
We
but
got
it's been
executive
buried.
office
But it's just
to
been
win.
buried. So he's run for president. What?
This is whataboutism, John.
How
this
is it
what this
that?
is?
Okay, but aren't you a lefty, Germania?
I lean pretty left, yes.
Okay, cool. So, do you
Regain your
support-
balance.
I'm a radical centrist.
So, what about
Roast.
AOC? Do you think the fact that she is a
Yeah,
she,
okay,
she actually auditioned. She auditioned for the role of representative. How do you feel about that?
John, we can get into all of that, but what brought all of this on, this very topic that we're discussing right now, is this guy's stupid ass comments about women wanting to be raped.
Yeah, but bubblegum.
I feel like that's a
here-
more prevalent topic.
But here's the thing:
that somebody
Germania.
would say something that
Bubblegum
freaking stupid.
Well, bubblegum is also a polytheist, so that explains it.
And he's racist.
Oh, and racist. On
Whoa,
that.
whoa.
This is the flat earther, right?
No.
No.
Was that somebody else?
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
Did you just make the assumption that I hate people based on their race?
No, I just said you're a racist.
Oh, okay.
Right? Well, I mean, you don't think humans are related to each other.
Well,
Oh, yeah, that is true.
I think
By
of
that
everybody in the world-
definition, yes.
Just like the whole atmosphere of this room just took a dive after those comments.
He's racist for a dumb reason. No, I'm just joking.
Well, every
he's
Christian
racist
should
because
feel
he
the
hates us, you're
conviction
racist.
of the Holy Spirit upon hearing something like that.
Wait, don't you have a
Be offended.
Confederate hat on?
I don't see any flags.
I don't see any flag.
Love.
It's ambiguous.
Okay, that was attempted misdirection right there. That was attempted deflect.
All right, we're all shitty people. We all established that.
Okay, so anyway, so let's go back to
Yes,
Jackson.
I'm just forgiven, honey. I'm just forgiven.
Okay, so Jackson, what is going on in Ukraine, and what is your opinion about the Iranians attacking the U.S. consulate in Iraq?
I'm actually pro-Iran. You might
What?
It may not. It may surprise you. It may not. But yeah, I've been on the axis of resistance side for 8 years.
Based.
So, do you think there's going to be a formal alliance between Russia, China, and Iran?
I sure hope so.
Yeah, I've got to bounce. Have a good one, and John, I'm sure we'll talk soon.
So Gur, why are you running away?
I've got to go.
Why? Because we're talking about Russia?
Russia? No, actually, that's a interesting topic. In all honesty.
Okay,
But anyways,
so we shift over to an interesting topic, and you're going to run away.
yes,
offensive as the
because you
last
scared
thing.
me.
Okay. I actually think what's happening is that Germania's girl is trying to indicate that what Bubblegum said was correct, and he's going to go take care of that.
Wait. Okay.
Handle that woman.
Let's unpack that, John.
I'm being very facetious, Germania,
Yeah.
and I figured that you were fast enough to pick up on that, but it is past your bedtime. It is past your bedtime, so I know your cognitive ability probably declines dramatically after that.
Although there was a couple things said here that would make great material for future streams. Not from you, John.
Well, I mean, there's all sorts of great things that have happened on everybody's channels. So, like, do you want me to go and start? Like, heck, I could start a channel just to review dumbass things said on atheist channels, and I could start with yours. So, by other people, not
Okay,
my.
I agree with you up until you said
I mean, how about
yours.
who is that? Who's the crazy woman that was on your channel last night? Oh yeah, that one who is a crazy person on basically every stream.
No,
There's an amazing amount of content that can be derived from those folks. I don't know, Germania. Maybe you should just never allow anybody on your channel.
Actually, I have to say,
you know what? In the modern era, you're responsible for every word everybody else says.
You might get canceled.
Oh yeah, trust me, John. Actually, we need to have a conversation about that.
Now,
'cause,
level
yes,
says autism is bad.
this is true. If I go into a stream where one person says, like, where 10 people are saying stuff I disagree with, if I don't try to refute every single person for every single time I disagree with them, that makes me a bad person, according to some people. But,
oh yeah, well,
that's obviously stupid.
Case in point, you remember the streams I used to go on when with what's his face, Raging Atheist.
Yeah.
And of course, irony of ironies, right? The dumpster fires on those streams were actually caused by other people. Which is what I find so funny about that. I engaged in them, but they were like the arson was caused by others for sure.
They made a song about that.
I would agree. All right,
we didn't start the fire.
Have a good one to most of you. All right.
We just lose
later.
Wahapa.
Yeah, I knew about the Iraq thing like 3 hours before the media did.
Okay, so why are you supporting Iran?
Because they've been marginalized by the U.S.
What?
Okay.
Sanctioned heavily.
Good.
So do you think that the largest recognized supporter and funder of terrorism in the world should be endorsed and embraced by the rest of the world?
They call it that, but it really, in my opinion, it's not.
Okay, so are you suggesting that? Hang on. So are you suggesting that the Iranians have not been funding,
which government hasn't?
A huge plethora of the attacks on Israel, for example.
Which government hasn't funded terrorism?
Well, do you feel it's justified?
Well, Israel occupies the West Bank. They commit war crimes every year, pretty much. You know.
Everybody's justified.
Hang on. So for occupying the West Bank, that is terrorism?
They did commit terrorism on the West Bank.
It's not terrorism. It's illegal under international law.
Okay, what?
Under the
occupying part of their own territory is illegal under international law.
Well, it's not their territory.
It's not their territory.
Okay, that's like
they won it in war.
Okay, how long has it been under their control?
Just because it's under their control doesn't mean it's their territory.
Answer the question. How long has it been under their control?
Since they took control of some of it in 1948, and then the rest of it, like the 50s, 60s, I want to say, the West Bank, and they've been gradually chipping away at it. So it's really.
So have they occupied the entirety of it for no less than 30 years at this point?
Why would it matter?
Yeah, that doesn't legitimize.
Okay, just answer the question, dumbass.
They also occupied the Golan Heights, which belongs to Syria.
Okay, now answer the questions.
When did they get that?
Have they occupied the West Bank for no less than 30 years at this point?
Yes.
Okay, so from a historic perspective, if you occupy a territory, you run the territory. Nobody has come back. It's yours. You're building on the territory, etc., etc. In any time in history, after you've had it for this long, is it not recognized to be yours?
No, this is what the Chinese do with the Uyghurs. They come in to replace them through population. They build like, oh, this is our territory because we've been inhabiting it. It's the same tactic. It's like if all the Mexicans from Mexico started settling in like the southern states, and over 30 years we just gave it to Mexico. No, it's absurd.
Just give America.
Well, I mean, there is the Reconquista that's being pushed.
Yeah,
in
I do acknowledge that. That needs to stop.
Okay, so right, but
Israel needs to stop too.
About it, right? The Mexico has not didn't have a war with they had multiple wars, but they haven't had a war with the United States where they've reconquered Texas. And then
they can.
And then if run. I'm not saying they could. We're talking about hypothetical here, right? Like, let's say we had a war, and the Mexico defeated us and conquered Texas, and that was 30 or 40 years ago, right? And and they've been running it. There's a government and their control of it, and it's operating like part of Mexico. And then people are like, oh, well, it's not part of Mexico, even though it's operating just like it's part of Mexico and has been for an extended period of time. This wasn't last year or 6 months ago. We're talking 34. At what point are you 150 years from now? Are you gonna be like, no, it's not part of Mexico, even though the fucking map has been redrawn?
All the people that were alive when it happened are
You
dead.
need to watch Addie Martin's Empire Files.
Yeah, that's just a silent conquer ship. It's still
once the people are dead that were part of the original.
Okay, anyway, what's up, Christopher? How you doing? What's up, man? Welcome to the stream. I think that you and Jackson are gonna have a debate tonight. So
sorry about
YouTube's echoing.
You're here now. Should we have an impromptu battle between Christopher and Jackson?
The audio's bad.
Okay, somebody's roboting. Is that Christopher roboting?
I think so.
Yeah, Christopher, you're roboting.
Try turning off your cam. Maybe it'll help.
I think he's frozen now.
Yeah, I think he's froze. Echo.
Yeah, but anyway, 6 Fatah 110 missiles hit Erbil.
Okay, so 1967 is when it started. As a result of the 6-Day War, right? So,
well, it didn't start there.
So 55 years ago is when the official recognized occupation of the West Bank took place. almost 55 years ago. I mean,
people older than that living there now, they're like, "Hey, this is our land."
It's because it's isolated. It's cut off from its mainland. That's why they're able to abuse it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Mitch, you got to connect your mic. I can't let you in.
I think me and Bubble offended everyone away.
So, where do you think what do you think the Jews should do? Should they
stay in their land,
get
stay
on
in
a
their
boat
territory?
somewhere
They should go back to where they came from.
Like the black people in America?
No,
Immigrants should.
Like the white people in America?
Wait, hey, Cal. Do you think Mexicans should go back to their the immigrants should go back? The Mexican
No.
immigrants. Wait, do you think that we shouldn't have any?
I think where
border...
you were born is where your home is.
Wait, you don't think that we should have any border control?
I didn't say that.
Wait, are you playing semantics with me right now?
Maybe.
Oh my God. Okay, if a Mexican or somebody from South America, or it doesn't matter what country, comes into America, crossing the border illegally, you think that's fine?
Illegally? No.
Okay, why would you say it's okay when Israel does it?
When Israel does what?
Start silently invading other countries. This is what China does with the Uyghurs. They are silently replacing.
Oh, wait. China, when Israel violently invades other countries,
it doesn't matter.
You're comparing that with Mexicans coming into America.
They're gonna get replaced either way.
Okay,
we just put them in train cars and.
This is like, I'm sorry, buddy, but this is like your weekend run string from Everest to America for $100 position. Like, the comparison is not even, it's not even remotely apples to apples.
Yeah, okay.
Like, you're way off. Okay, dude, have the people that are coming across the Texas and California borders, right, and Arizona and such.
Okay,
is there a war, like an actual war, that has taken place in the conventional context?
No. Okay, we can use Uyghurs.
Yes or no? Yes.
No.
Has there been a conventional war? Yes or no?
No, we can use the Uyghurs and Chinese if you want to use it. Wait. Let me finish.
Let
me finish. I'm gonna make a point.
Just use whatever group fits your point best.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Yes. That's what I'm trying to say. We can use the Uyghurs and Chinese. I mean, only using the Americans and Mexicans because it's closer to home. That's the only reason. But we can use the Uyghurs and Chinese, and it's the very exact same thing that's happening. It's the same tactic.
No, it's completely not.
Yes, it is. It's replacing them without any shots fired. There's more one way than winning the war.
Well, the thing is, they do shoot every now and then.
Yeah, but it's not here. It's here or there.
Okay, so was there a conventional war in what you're referring to?
Me?
No, Bubble.
The Uyghurs and the Chinese.
Yeah,
of course not. The Uyghurs don't have any industry. Of course they don't have guns. It would be dumb for them to fight back.
Okay, so were they a separate country?
Yes.
They were? What was the name of it?
Well, they want to be independent. It's like
okay, so they want to be independent. So they weren't independent. So there wasn't another.
Well, it's like Ukraine and Russia. Technically, yes, it belongs to Russia, but they're independent after the Soviet Union.
Why does it belong to Russia? Because they owned it, because they took it over during the Soviet Union. So that means they own it.
Well, yeah, it's because they were ex-Nazis.
And they're still kind of Nazis.
Yeah, it was just hilarious.
Their president's a Jew.
I'm seriously having my mind blown in terms of your position on what is ownership? When is it justified? When is it not justified?
I'm saying like, you can't be hypocritical. If you're gonna say when China does it, it's bad, but when Israel does it to Palestine,
I'm not the one that brought up China. I'm not the one that brought up China. You're the one that brought up China.
No,
I'm
calling
this out for your mischaracterization of what. Okay, so in the context of the Uyghurs, whatever how you pronounce it, were they a separate country that was conquered and had conventional war with the People's Republic of China?
No, there was no conventional war, but you don't need to have a war to.
So were they a group of people that were already inside of China?
Well, it's the same thing with Ukraine and Russia.
Okay, just dude, you're misrepresent. You're like obfuscating.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. You could say so.
No, hang on, Bubble. We're gonna pin you down.
You seem to have no clue about the history.
You're
like the pro-Russia eastern half of Ukraine, wanting to break away from Ukraine, I guess is what a better analogy.
Yes, that would. Yeah, that is true. Well, that would be a better analogy. The thing I'm saying is it's hypocritical to say it's bad when China does it, but when Israel does it, it's good.
Okay, again, you're not doing a direct comparison, dude. This is
It is. There, it's
No.
the same tactic.
It is not the same tactic.
Are they not coming in and replacing them without shots being necessarily fired?
Dude, how many Arabs are in the West Bank right now?
I don't know.
It's like 3 million. How many Israelis or Jews are in the West Bank right now?
They're moving in.
How many are in there?
I don't know.
It's about 500,000. It's about 500,000.
How many Palestinians are armed compared to the Israelis?
None.
That's definitely not true. There are plenty of armed Palestinians.
No.
In Gaza.
In Gaza.
25,000 Gaza.
Fantasyland. Okay, there are no guns in the Gaza Strip, right?
No, there are guns in the Gaza Strip.
September 1st, 2020. Private gun ownership soars in the West Bank.
Yeah, look, your
Israel eased gun laws. I mean, like
your AK isn't going to take down a tank.
Palestinians have a legal right to arm. I mean, this is hilarious.
No, this is like the absurd. Like people didn't get when Biden said, like, your AK isn't going to take down a tank. Don't be absurd. You're not going to win this. Being a little rebel.
If you don't blow shit up, you don't get shot. Like
if you don't have an RPG in industry, you're not winning.
This is like the freaking idiots here in the United States are like, just gonna get gunned down. It's like, yeah, if you like are at McDonald's or whatever, and then the cops come to get you to leave, and then you like tackle two cops, you grab one of them's gun, and then your ass gets shot after you took a weapon away from a cop, and then be like, this was totally this is horrible, just evil abuse of power. Like, if you don't run around like shooting and blowing things up, the probability of you getting blown up and shot plummets exponentially.
Are you too pro Second Amendment?
How pro second? Wait, what do you mean by Second Amendment? Because there's two types of Second Amendment. There's
if I have a bunch of rifles, let's say I have an RPG, is that okay legally? Should that be okay?
I'll say whatever you want.
Are you okay with people owning MG42, Stranggewehr, Panzerfaust, T-34s, etc.? That's
so you just named an assault rifle, a anti-tank weapon, and a tank. So what exactly are you trying to prove?
Okay, there's Second Amendment, and then there's gun rights. Those are two different things.
Yes, because capitalism would take care of that, because nobody would really be able to afford a tank unless.
Wait, nobody would be able to afford a tank? Have you heard of Jeff
like
Bezos?
$40,000.
Well, I'm not in the same capacity as.
And in the free market, they would be
assault
cheaper.
Rifles. In other words, I don't think you would see people with tanks on every street corner.
Look, anybody can make a tank now. It's just steel with a motor. You think the free market isn't going to explode?
I love that you think a tank is that simple.
It's not. It's literally just a tractor.
Well, in any case, people were permitted to have cannons and guns on their ships during the War of 1812 and that sort of thing. So yeah, accordingly, that should be perfectly fine. If the government has it,
you can own a tank. It just has to be demilitarized. Like the gun has to be disabled, but you can own a tank.
Yeah, it's disabled gun. It's like it's all welded up. You can't use it.
No, because it was specifically to defend the coast of the country.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about today.
Oh yeah, if you want to buy a I actually don't know what the law is on tank. I guess you got to be some sort of just however much money you pay for the licenses.
Okay, you got to realize the Second Amendment ended in 1986, illegally, by the way, illegally.
Yeah, the fully automatic weapons are banned then.
Yeah. What we have now is called gun rights, which is just like you can own hunting rifles. And
they're not banned. They put extra.
Yeah, you need a Class 3 license for them, but
you need to get extra vouchers for that sort of.
Yeah, the point is we do not have a Second Amendment. That's why I hate freaking libertarians. Like, all you need is an AK, hurt there, and then we'll have this revolution. No, you're gonna get everybody killed and everybody hurt. Don't freaking do
What
that.
exactly are you communicating here? I asked you. Okay, so let's forget about the word Second Amendment. Do you think that people should have the right to have firearms? And the point is, if you think that Americans, I mean, do all Americans have the right to have guns? And do Palestinians?
Well, this is what's a big misconception. It's not a right to have. You have a government regulate. You have a right for government not to regulate you, not to have those guns. For example, when they mean God-given rights, they mean free men don't ask. You need government to step in and take away that liberty.
Well,
Okay,
unless you're going to
this
go
is getting
overthrow
really
the
into
entire
the-
government,
this is getting
everything
really
that you're saying is
into the-
irrelevant.
What's the thing? They wanted you to overthrow the government. If the government ever got big and tyrannical, like, hey, overthrow it. It's your duty to do it.
I agree with that.
But now we can't.
Yeah, now we can't because they got rid of the Second Amendment. We do not have a Second Amendment.
So is that your
We have
argument that Palestinians should be all given weapons so that they can overthrow the Israeli government?
No, I'm saying Palestinians do not have a Second Amendment. They might have gun rights, but they do not have a Second Amendment. They are not fit to fight a invading force or turn around any sort of a tyrannical force.
Okay. Yeah, comparing them, I mean, yeah, they don't have a constitution. Of course, they don't have a Second Amendment, right?
Yeah, because like freaking LARPers in America like to compare themselves to the Vietnam or the Viet Cong. Like, no, the Viet Cong had RPGs, Dishkas. They had an industry behind them. The Soviet Union.
And MiG-21s also,
Yeah.
which are pretty good at the time.
Yeah, I would say among the best because like this is just like right after World War II. That stuff is still being used. The MG42 is still among the top machine guns out there. Like people don't realize like guns haven't changed that much.
So back to your comparison of the Israelis treating Arabs like Holocaust victims. That's your position, right?
No, yeah, like I'm saying
Treat
like
them like crap, I say, yeah.
yeah, I'm saying like don't be hypocritical when like if you're gonna say it's bad for China to like do
Unless
this
you
to
heard
the-
me say something about China, I mean, so are you comparing that sort of thing to like the way Israelis treat Arabs, like the way like would you say like police treat black people here in America?
It's
No, that's a different problem, I would say.
What's different about it?
Well,
other than the name of the people.
Well, the Africans weren't here, and then like Americans came, or Caucasians came and started like policing them. That didn't happen here.
Where do either of those people actually belong?
I think a fair comparison would be like the Native Americans, who basically they know they're getting trashed on by like the feds. For example, if an oil company wants to put like a pipe through Native American land, they'll pretend like they'll go through paperwork, but at the end of the day, if they're like, hey, we need this pipeline, screw your Native American rights, we're just gonna put the pipeline.
Okay, well, aside from that, where should those people go? Okay, so because you're jumping between Israel and America. In America, you think white people should not be here, then, right?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying don't make hypocritical statements. Like if it's okay, like if you want to take the position what Israel is doing is okay and good and fine, that's okay. That's your opinion, and you can see your justification behind that. But you got to see the other side also has a justification as to why they want to keep these people out. Like, hey, I believe in borders. Stay on your side.
Have you ever looked at the Irish thing? Anybody?
Which Irish thing?
The Northern Ireland.
There's a country called Ireland, and in the north, there's a couple counties that have been taken over for like the past 500 or so years, 600 years by the British. The
IRA.
I used to be very much militant in that regard. But one thing that struck me at some point after reading a novel called, I think it was just called Trinity, was that, again, I said it before, if a person lives there, was born there, that's where they live. That's their home. So I don't care if we're completely different religions, different races, different classes. If you were born over there and I was born here, this is our homes. So we better learn to share, or we better kill each other. That seems to be the only options. I don't really know what else there is. Learn to share or kill each other.
Or no, or more like know
They
your
should
side
kill
of the
each other,
fence.
right?
No, I think you should know your side of the fence.
Why do we need fences?
Do you like
I'm not talking about borders of countries. I'm talking about
when you're in your analogy, you know, your analogy.
Stick with a single country on an analogy.
Kill me, Cuyo.
That's actually supposed to sound like Noldor language. So if there's any Finnish speakers, tell me if that sounds Finnish.
I don't know how Finnish sounds like.
You don't know the Loituma leak spin thing?
Nah. I haven't heard all of the language.
Come on, look at your avatar. You got to know that.
Wait, my anime avatar? Got an anime avatar. Odin.
No, if you've ever seen that was a
what?
Finnish folk song.
Oh, the Hatsune Miku song. No, this is not Hatsune Miku. This is somebody else. Yeah, now I know what you're referring to. I didn't know that was Finnish.
No, I don't think it's a good comparison to compare the Uyghurs. I don't really know much about I know what I've heard, which I'll take their word for it, right?
That's a bad idea. Take the media's word for anything.
True. Because they're there to condition you. This was something Chomsky actually got right.
Well, that was being sarcastic.
Here's some echo. Okay, there you go. He said the media is there for public conditioning, or like gaining what's he calls it?
Manufacturing consent.
There you go, that word. And he's right about that, despite being wrong on everything else. Yeah, he's actually a Christian, by the way, or he believes in angels, which is one funny thing.
That's not a Christian just because you believe in angels.
Well, yeah, I know, but if you believe in angels, I think it would necessarily follow some sort of biblical God.
Well, I would argue there's been some form of propaganda pushing out all throughout of all of history and whatever media is used, whether it's the news or whether it's just seems to be the order of the day for that sort of thing. It seems inevitable that there would be anything like that.
Yeah.
People trying to control, manipulate people. That seems to be what the nature of existence is one thing, trying to manipulate the other thing.
Yeah.
Are you?
I mean, ultimately, we're also trying to get in power. Let's not ignore that. We want you guys want Christianity to become like, the status quo in a way.
That's a big argument between Christians, because there's a large section of Christians that are dominionist that do believe that Christianity needs to take over the world before Jesus will come back. I absolutely reject that, and we're not set to make the world a better place because the world is passing away. We're supposed to just preach the gospel. That's it. This world is done.
Yeah.
All right, hang on, guys. Okay, so we've been going 3 hours and 13 minutes. I'm pooped. It's time to go to bed. We need to do last words. It's now 12:40. I gotta get up in the morning. So let's do round robin of last words. I don't know. Christopher hasn't got to say much. You want to say kind of first and last words, Christopher?
Yeah, is my audio good?
You're coming through now.
All right, something happened earlier. That's why I got off. But Jackson, hope your headache is good tomorrow, and I'll see you then.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, man.
And we'll do, hopefully we'll do after show on that one as well. Iger, you got any words you want to say?
Oh, yeah, man. Just God grants us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the strength to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. In your son, Jesus' name, amen. Catch y'all next time.
All right. Bubble, anything you want to say? Nothing crazy, please.
Bring back the patriarchy. Is I'm out enough? All right, later, gamers.
Well, that explains so much. Kelvin, got anything you want to say?
Thank you for having this, and thank you for having us, and God bless everybody, and trust nothing.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. And very sorry about your cat, man. And that's tough. The mind says, any last words before we wrap up?
Yeah, I wanted to contribute more to the conversation, but it was just a lot of craziness. So next time,
Yeah, tonight was a little bit of a dumpster fire for sure. No doubt about
yeah,
that.
next time I'll definitely throw in my 2 cents more when there's not so many. What are those people called? That instigators and stuff. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah, tonight was interesting. Yeah, we appreciate you coming in, man. You're welcome anytime, and hopefully we'll have a little more productive conversation next time.
Yeah. All right.
All
Talk
right.
to y'all later.
All right, Jackson. Any
All
last words before you go off to extenuate your migraine?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take some Max Salt here in a minute, just as a preemptive measure, so that'll keep it at bay. But yeah, it still hurts a little bit, but it's getting better. So it will be good for tomorrow. But yeah, I'm just going to go watch more war news, I guess. That's all. So.
Right on. Well, appreciate you joining us.
Yeah.
And everybody in the side chat who's been watching throughout the night, I really appreciate y'all making it through both my long-winded diatribe against the porpoise craziness and, of course, whatever the heck we just been engaged in for the last hour and a half. Thanks, everybody, for all that. And as you contemplate the different facets of your existence, all the different pieces of evidence for and against your worldview, make sure that the conclusion that you reach is logical, plausible, and probable, folks. Otherwise, you are not using your critical thinking skills. But everybody have a great night, and don't forget, it's daylight savings time, so put those clocks forward, because you're losing an hour in 1 hour and 18 minutes from now. You're losing an hour of sleep, so it is time for bed, folks. Have a good one.